Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the McDonCast.
The funnest
Wow, that was gross.
podcast.
I can't believe we started that way. Oh, the season's
Yeah,
off.
because I'm already
Horrible
like
start.
almost done with my burp.
You just burped right into the microphone during
The
the
mic
intro
is
scene.
over here.
What if we have new listeners who just completely scared them?
Now they know. Now they know what's up. Now they know we're chatting.
Now they-
we're chilling. We're hanging out.
This is the podcast.
This is the boys.
This
And also the girls. We actually do have like a pretty.
is a podcast for the gross boys and the gross girls. It's a podcast. Finally, we should
Finally a podcast.
we should
for
put
the
that in the
gross-
description. Finally, a podcast for the gross people,
No, I
for the
feel like
unbathed.
I feel like that would actually drive people.
That would
away from
attract
that.
a Liver King-esque audience. I
Yeah,
think.
we don't need that.
Watch us eat raw meat next
Did you
week.
see he said he's back on steroids again? Which
I don't think he was
assumed-
ever off
Yeah,
steroids.
I assumed he just was always on steroids. I don't know why he said he's back on them. I assumed he never
Well,
got
I
off
think
them.
now he probably can't hide it anymore.
Well, obviously he couldn't hide it to begin with. The dude looked
No,
like a
obviously
living tumor.
eating raw meat and running around pantsless in the woods does not make you jacked.
Yeah, because
It's the steroids. Anyway, good on him. At least he's admitting he has a problem.
no, he's not. He's just saying that he's actually doubling down and going to keep.
So he just said he's on steroids to boast about it.
So okay, when he got caught, I guess I was not aware of this, but I guess he said he was going to stop taking steroids. And then recently, within the last 2 weeks or so, he was like, "Guys, I'm gonna go back on steroids." So I think he's just doubling down on them.
Again, I have no problem with steroids. Honestly, I don't care if you do steroids.
I mean, they're
I honestly think it's good.
and as far as drugs go, they're not as bad as
No,
like,
I
you
mean,
know.
it's like you get to look the way you obviously want to look. Yeah, it jacks up your health, but it's not jacking up my health.
That's fair.
And the more they use them, maybe they'll get better, and we'll get side effect free steroids.
And then we can make.
Then we can
Be
all
Captain
we
America.
can all be Captain America. Then we can
Okay,
all take
I've
steroids.
never understood why the U.S. military does not pump the soldiers. Full.
Well, I mean, they pump them full of They already pump them full of a lot of things and don't even bother to tell.
Because
what they're being pumped
here's
with.
the thing. Okay, now it would definitely have adverse.
Fun fact:
health-
the government, one of their favorite things to do is just to test vaccines on soldiers against their will. They just walk them into a tent, stick a couple needles in them, inject them with some fluids, and then just let them walk away.
But
That is a pretty regular thing in the military.
because okay, so yeah, it would definitely have adverse health effects on the soldiers, for sure.
Yeah,
they
but-
would have brain damage.
True, but also so does getting shot
But-
with a gun.
Also, they don't care. So
Yeah,
feel
they're
like
in
they
the
have no
military.
reason- Well, no. I mean, the soldiers will probably care when they get home and they're 50.
Yeah.
And their
Long-term
liver is
effects,
melting.
yes.
But I'm talking about
In
the
the short
government.
term?
No, the government doesn't care.
No.
Why they don't?
Honestly, it's better for them because they get the max physical ability out of you when you're young and in the army. And then you die sooner when you're older, and then they don't have to pay as much veteran retirement benefits.
Go.
Boom. Government.
We
We did this on the last episode too. We keep pitching a moral.
We keep
horrible
pitching. We
ideas.
keep pitching conspiracy theories. We don't try to discover conspiracy theories. We're like, hey, government,
What if you tried this out, bud?
Have you considered this horrible thing?
What if you put radioactive waste in all of our drinking water to see if we mutate?
That's what would make us good politicians.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well, no, we wouldn't be the politicians. We'd be the guy in the room. They'd be like, we need an idea for a thing. We'd be like, okay, lizard taxes, or something like that. We just spew out these ideas. We'd
But
get them
that's
cooking.
what you do in the government.
I feel like if we ever had a political podcast, that's mostly what it would turn into.
I
It's
feel like
just
we had a
pitching
political
various
podcast would be awesome.
political speak. We're not going to do a political
No,
podcast.
of course not. I have shifted. I'm away from no parties. I'm just gonna vote for whatever the funniest outcome is.
That's honestly where I'm at too.
Whatever is going to result in the most comedic thing for me personally.
Honestly, because it's already bad. So if it's gonna be bad, it should at least be funny.
'Cause I think we've seen at this point that basically no one in the government cares.
No.
actually, doing
And neither do
anything
any of
important.
the voters.
Yeah.
Voters don't care about policy either.
So if
They care about guy who is cool on TV.
if the politicians don't care about policy and their voter base doesn't care about
No.
policy, let's just vote for whoever's
I
the
think
funniest.
instead of presidential debates, because obviously those have derailed into just lunacy at this point.
Yeah, they don't. Nothing happens.
I think it should be like an America's Got Talent style competition.
Yeah, we have Donald Trump sing us a song.
Yeah, well, it's like we bring out all the candidates, and you can that way you can like really instead of just like 2 or 3 guys hogging the spotlight, you can really like shuffle through a bunch of guys, and the judges can just be like the Supreme Court or someone, I don't know. It could be like the most famous people in the U.S.
We'll make a fourth branch.
Some sort of panel of judges. I don't know who the panel would be yet. But then the
We
presidential.
have a fourth branch of government called the judges panel.
Yeah, it's like how the Pope is elected by just some like a group of like 8 random priests who in red robes, and they like release smoke
So
out
it's
of.
like just a house committee.
Yeah, they release like smoke out of a chimney. The Catholic Church is weird, but yeah, and then they all just come out and they do their act, and like whoever has the best act gets to be the president.
That sounds great.
And it would eliminate the age problem.
Yeah, because if you're too old,
Because
you
if they're
can't-
too old, they
you
can't
do
juggle.
funny things.
I mean, maybe they could sing, but like everyone does singing. It'd have to be like if Trump came out there on like a unicycle juggling dressed as a clown.
We'd have to have it so that they have to do a physical ability and like a secondary ability. So
Okay.
they can sing.
It's like a beauty
but they
pageant.
also have to like jump through a bouncy house or something.
Yeah. Just so we can make sure they got that mental acuity and that physical.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a good play.
New government. idea.
Boom. No more elections. Everyone's whining about the electoral college.
Clown country.
No more elections. Panel of judges, and it's America's Got Talent. Nationally televised. It'll be the highest rated thing in the year.
Clown I call it clown democracy.
Is a clown? Yeah.
That's this system of government. It's not a representative republic. It's a clown.
It's a clown democracy.
democracy.
And the lower down, like on the branch, we do this for every branch of government. The lower it goes, like the less publicized the event is.
Yeah, well, it's just
Like
how
you
it
get
is
to like
anyways.
mayoral elections, it's like a guy in like the town square, like
Yeah, they
playing the
just set up
flute.
a circus tent, and
Yeah.
you actually go to the circus. In
Yeah.
town.
And you can just walk by. You don't have to watch.
Clown democracy. It's the best. It's the best political system.
You know, and how in Gravity Falls they elect them by like throwing birdseed at.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's something like that. Anyway, we gotta get. It was not a very big news week.
Not a
Nor
lot going on.
did we see any movie to review. I know The Nun 2 came out.
Don't care about that.
Don't
Why did they
care.
even make a sequel? No one even saw the first one.
Well, it was the highest opening for any Conjuring universe film.
Oh yeah, all 3 of them.
Well, no, there was 1, 2, and 3, and then there was the Annabelle movies. They made 3 of those. The Nun 1. They did the Curse of La Llorona. It was a
It's
big
also
hit.
about a nun.
The Nun 2 is a big hit, but I've yet to encounter a single person who has seen it, nor anyone who has even bothered to mention its
I don't
existence.
think anyone is actually.
No, I think it's.
I think that
It's
think
gotta
who
just be the
made it?
teen.
Universal.
Yeah, no, it's a Warner Brothers thing.
I think Warner Brothers paid a bunch of mannequins, bought a bunch of mannequins, and sold them tickets, them in seats in like a couple theaters. So no one
I'm
would
picturing
notice.
them like actually like building the mannequin,
Yeah, they
and then
dress them
walking
up and
into a
everything.
ticket booth, sitting out front, and then like pretending to have a conversation and just doing that individually.
Yeah,
like
they had to
800
simulate
times.
the whole experience.
They got to do the whole exchange.
Yeah, they did that, and then that was it. No one actually saw the
No,
movie.
it's got to just be like bored teenagers.
But then they would post about it on like TikTok.
Yeah, you'd think maybe it was just so forgettable that a bunch of them saw it and then just said nothing.
Yeah, it's
It's.
possible.
I mean, it's one of them. It's like those Conjuring movies are just like so unremarkable. Outside of like maybe like the first 2, they're just like the most just generic horror.
They never try to
jump
do
scare
anything
laden crap.
interesting. They're just jump scares.
No, it's just like okay, this character was spooky in the last one. Spin him off, have him sit in a dark corner, and then scream at the audience for like an hour and a half.
You could
And
get
all go home.
an accurate simulation of a Conjuring universe movie if you were to sit in a dark room with a curtain in front of you, and someone has a sock puppet on, and occasionally sticks it through the curtain and goes, "Bah! Bah! Bah!" It just
Sorry
does
for our
that.
headphone listeners.
It just does that to you, like every couple minutes. That's what a Conjuring.
At least
movie.
I think the first 2 were James Wan things, and so at least it's got like his weird camera movements in it, or like his He likes to, especially in like rooms, like lock the camera down and like swish it around with like
when
a
he's
fisheye
not
lens.
reusing scenes from
Like
the
he at least
previous
is like
movie.
attempting to do like an interesting visual style.
Yeah,
But then after that, you get to like Annabelle 3, and it's just
and
like
no one cares at that
the
point.
spooky doll moved to the shelf. Ah! Yeah. But, you know, it's a big hit. I'm sure they'll do a third one. I know they're already doing a Conjuring 4 and a TV show. So they're all going to be
what?
more cases by Ed and Lorraine Warren, the two biggest frauds in American history.
They didn't even do anything.
No, well, obviously, because everything they investigated was fake.
That would be. What is even the equivalent to that? Okay, you know the reality TV show Monster Hunter like shows.
Yeah, like a Ghost Hunters?
Yeah, it's that.
Yeah,
But,
no,
like,
that's what they were doing. They were just doing it in
just-
like the
but
70s.
they wrote it in books, so it's not even
Yeah.
fun to watch.
No, they have their haunted museum of spooky objects where the real Annabelle doll is.
Up, sit in a glass box. Okay,
It's in a glass box.
real
If you
Annabelle
touch it,
doll-
you might get in a car crash. or
if the
something.
real Annabelle doll like it could escape glass boxes, how come it hasn't escaped?
No,
this
it
glass box?
couldn't escape. This one was made out of like. It was made out of like wood soaked in holy water. There's a dumb reason for it to be like
Wouldn't it
Annabelle proof.
dry out after a while.
There's like a million. It's got like
Do
crosses
they
in it.
spritz it with holy water every couple days to make sure it doesn't fully dry out?
I can
ever?
Google it. They made up a dumb reason
made up
on
some
why.
lore?
I think it was like blessed by a priest or something.
The doll or the box.
The box. Well, the doll is possessed by a demon.
Why didn't a priest just like grab the doll and put it in the box then?
Well, they conceal it in the box. They just the demon.
I feel
won't
like
go out.
Ed and Lorraine.
Ed and Lorraine Warren.
I feel like they could like they're the most worthless, like useless part of their own story.
No, they were.
All they do is find a thing and then they tell a
No, they
priest
didn't
to
even find
actually
them.
do the thing.
They didn't find them. The people would call them
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're like
and be like, "My house is spooky and haunted," and then they would show up.
it's like having a middleman for the fire department. Like that's like you call a guy, tell him there's a fire, and then
so
he
they-
calls the fire department
Yeah.
and they send something to
Well,
deal
because
with
they
it.
would show up and then they couldn't do any. Like they would walk around and be like, I smell a ghost in this house," and then they would call a
They
priest.
literally have the Ghostbuster one
Yeah.
with the blinky lights.
And then they would the priest would come in and be like, "House is." I'm sure the priest was like really tired of getting their phone calls, so he's probably just like, "House is no longer possessed by a demon."
why does the Catholic Church keep their exorcists like a secret? You know how like every diocese has an exorcist?
There's some thing
Are they
in like
worried that they'll get assassinated by like demon assassins?
no, there's like something where like the demon is more powerful if it like knows or like it can find them easier if they know the name of the priest or something like that. I think it's also generally because they don't want people to like run up to that. Like if you knew it was like Father Joe at St. John's Baptist or St. John's Catholic Church, like I'm sure he would just get crackpots showing up every week, just being like, "I'm possessed by a demon. I can't
But, like,
stop
okay.
drinking wine."
Even if you keep it a secret from like the other like general church members, like
Yeah.
somebody knows that guy.
Yeah,
So at what point?
I think it's the
at what
bishop. I think
point
the
does
bishop knows who all of the.
Yeah, but okay,
the
so
exorcists
if
are.
they're keeping it a secret from average people, right? Because
Yeah.
if they know, then the demon might know.
Yes.
But if the bishop knows, does that not count?
Well, I think it's about quantity. I think
So
because
it's-
if one guy
So
knows
wait,
it's
you're
fine.
you're telling me it's Food Boy rules? You
What?
know the movie Food Boy?
I'm aware of the movie
where he
Food
makes
Boy.
food, but the more people who know that he has food powers, the less tasty it is. Are you telling
That's
me
a
we're
real
working on
part of
Food
that
Boy
movie?
rules? That's part of the lore.
Okay. I don't know. I don't.
What's our first news story?
Anyway, enough about.
We talked about
Speaking of
clown
fraud.
democracy.
Yeah. So, not a lot of news this week. A couple of small
Oh,
things.
we were talking about the trailer for.
Oh, yeah.
that.
And then we're going to talk about summer box office. It's finally, we're going to talk about that, wrap that up. And then we're going to talk about the most recent episode of Ahsoka. I'm sure Sam has thoughts.
There's a lot happened in that.
I have some thoughts. Anyway, but first, let's start off. We got a trailer for a TV show and a teaser for a movie. The trailer was for Monarch Legacy of Monsters. This is the MonsterVerse Apple TV Plus show. If you don't remember, the MonsterVerse is the Godzilla and Kong universe.
Oh, and the Pokemon.
I don't care. Is it there was
Still
Pokemon?
massive.
Oh, I know they revealed there's going to be a Nintendo Direct tomorrow. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that's. What do they have to announce?
And probably not much. I think it's just like we have to have a Direct in September.
They no wonder, but that's like a year out.
Well, they just gave that its own Direct.
Yeah, they
right?
just gave that its own direct, so
So
we're
I
not
don't
going to hear.
know.
They'll probably mention it, but we're not going to get any new information.
No. Well, we don't. You know what we know literally nothing about and was supposed to come
Game.
out this year was the Splatoon 3 DLC.
Oh, is that getting DLC?
Yeah, there was supposed to be a whole other story campaign, and we know nothing about it. So that'll probably get.
Super real. That game was fun multiplayer for like a month. All right, I got my. It was a fun game. I got my
I
money's
beat the
worth.
story. I didn't play it as nearly as much as I played 1 or 2. But this is also mostly because I have less time than.
But also,
games came
if
out.
you've played 1 and 2,
Yeah, 3 is pretty similar.
except for I think the jump thing.
There's a lot about.
You know what?
There's a lot of good changes they made in 3. I just didn't have as much time to play it.
The jump thing that they added in
The-
3 takes
yeah.
so long to pull off that you'll just get killed before you have a chance.
Like to go to the map and then pick a person and.
No, the thing where you can like hold down and like jump up a wall.
Oh, that was in the first game.
Same problem. You just die before you.
Yeah. Anyway, so want me to read you the synopsis for Monarch: Legacy of Monsters?
I would love to hear that.
Okay, Monarch: Legacy of Monsters tracks 2 siblings following in their father's footsteps to uncover their family's connection to the secretive organization known as Monarch. Clues lead them into the world of monsters and ultimately down the rabbit hole to Army
The
officer.
secret organization, which in those movies is huge and it has like a bunch of million.
Well, everyone knows about him now. They didn't all know about him in the 70s. Down the rabbit hole to Army officer Lee Shaw, played by Kurt and Wyatt Russell. So what they're going to do is Wyatt Russell, who is Kurt Russell's son, is going to play the younger version of the character.
That's cool. I like it when they do that.
And then Kurt Russell is going to play the older version of the character, which I thought was neat.
Yeah, I always like it when
That'd
they
be really
do that every once in a while. I like it when they do that.
That'd been really cool if they were on like the press tour at the same time. No more press tours. Taking place in the 1950s and half a century later, where Monarch is threatened by what Shaw knows. The dramatic saga, spanning 3 generations, reveals buried secrets and the ways that epic, earth-shattering events can reverberate through our lives. Sure about how big monsters smashing buildings reverberate through our lives. Anyway, this sounds kind of neat. The MonsterVerse is generally pretty good. There's been 4 movies, and say 3 of them are worth watching.
I've seen.
I think you've seen all
I saw
of them.
Godzilla 2, and I saw.
Godzilla vs. Kong.
I think
And
it
I'm
was the
pretty
other
sure you've seen Kong, but it was
I never
definitely
saw
a while. You never did?
I saw it. I saw.
No, you
it.
did.
No, I never saw the whole thing. I've seen clips of it on like TV and like bars and stuff.
We watched it when it came to like video on demand. I remember you being
No,
there.
I wasn't there.
I remember you being there.
No, I remember I got back and you guys told me you watched. I wasn't.
Oh, maybe you weren't. It came out like 6 years ago.
Because I didn't learn that Tom Hiddleston was in it until Loki came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I didn't watch.
Yeah, I'd say so. Godzilla 2014 was kind of like disliked when it came out, but
It was very generic.
looking back on it, it's actually pretty good.
It's very
It's,
very
um,
Godzilla. It's just it's
I think it was Gareth Edwards.
a very
did it.
stripped down version of the Godzilla story, but it's not a very complicated story.
No, that one's like the most like grounded and like realistic. That one's got like the best sense of scale. Yeah, that was Gareth Edwards did
I
the
thought
first
Shin
one.
Godzilla was supposed.
Shin Godzilla, everyone also likes, but the first Godzilla is pretty good. Godzilla 2 is not good.
That's the one where he fights.
That's the one where Ghidorah and
yeah.
Mothra, and they're just like the characters in it are really
They
bad.
just fight,
Yeah, and then
and he goes thermonuclear.
Kong is pretty good. That one's got a great cast for some reason. And then Godzilla versus Kong is really stupid, but pretty fun.
Pretty fun.
And then they're
I
doing
enjoyed Godzilla.
the next Godzilla Kong movie next year, and this is good.
And you know what? Credit where credit is due. Godzilla versus Kong is the only thing versus thing movie where one of them actually wins.
Yeah, they
that
actually
drives
pick a
me
guy to
insane.
Mhm.
Because in Batman versus Superman, they're like, no one really won.
They reconcile. You know what? They did both.
Batman kind of pinned him down, but also Superman didn't even try to.
Well, they
fight.
always team up to fight a bigger guy.
Yeah.
Like in this one, they had one person win, and they still teamed up to fight a bigger guy.
But again, Batman only won because the whole time Superman was like, buddy.
No, but Batman and Superman
let's
were like,
talk it out. And then Batman's like, no.
yeah.
Bomb. I was like, hey, stop. Let's talk it out. And he's like, no.
Well, I guess they kind
Bomb.
of most of them do. Like Batman versus Superman, True. Superman was like not there
The whole
to fight
time
him.
he's only there to talk to him.
Batman's pretty much just there beating him up, and Superman's not really fighting back.
And then eventually Batman like corners
I'd
him
say
with kryptonite.
Captain America Civil War, Captain America pretty definitively wins that fight.
Well, he just kind of runs away though.
Well, he could have killed him. Like, he's in the point where he could have killed him, and he chooses not to.
Yeah, but one, that was because he had Bucky's
And
help.
Iron Man is very obviously the
That was
aggressor
because
in that fight.
he had Bucky's help.
That's true. He did have
Iron
a
Man
backup.
was like mentally unstable at the time because he learned that his like parents had been
That's
murdered
true.
by Captain America's friend. And Iron Man also didn't he like not have his whole suit?
No, he did.
But then the other two reasons are, but like
No, yeah, Godzilla versus Kong, where it's like a full, just like straight up, they're at full strength.
yeah,
Just
they're
put 'em-
both at full strength and they both fight and one
Yeah.
wins.
And
I,
it's cool.
I want more of that.
Godzilla's, I mean, Kong is even buffed because he gets that axe.
Yeah, he's got a little buff because again,
If it was
he would've
just if it was just a
installed
very
on
big monkey versus the nuclear
'Cause
fire breathing
Godzilla-
lizard, the nuclear fire breathing
Godzilla,
lizard wins every time.
aside from being huge, also has like extra superpowers on
He's
top of that.
powered by nuclear radiation.
Whereas King Kong is just a big
Mm-hmm.
monkey. Which I mean, that against most things, that's a very
Against
good ability to have.
anyone else, Big Monkey is pretty good.
But big monkey versus big thing with superpowers, the one with superpowers is going to be the one that doesn't have any super.
And then they
Anyways,
both
let's
team
talk
up to
about
beat.
Aquaman.
Anyway, then oh, by the way, Monarch comes out November 17th again on Apple TV Plus. It's gonna be 10 episodes.
Oh, it's a show.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You know, the next MonsterVerse movie is the Godzilla vs Kong, or Godzilla times Kong now.
Godzilla X Kong.
It's Godzilla X Kong.
Was it titled in Japan or was it titled in
No,
America?
it's Godzilla and Kong.
Yeah, well, if it was Japanese,
What are
it
they
would
gonna
just be
do?
Godzilla Kong, you know.
Didn't they at the end of at the end of Godzilla vs Kong, they went back to like the
They go to live in the underground
Yeah.
world where the Kongs are.
the Kongs used to be. There's no Kongs
There's
there.
only one Kong.
They send Kong there to look around, but I think there's gonna be a
Godzilla
new.
was around.
I think there's gonna be a new. There's gonna be a new evil Kong.
They
I
beat
think that's the
Mechagodzilla
pitch.
in the last.
Yeah, they did. I guess they could do Mecha
Aren't
Ghidorah.
there other Mecha Godzillas? There's like 4.
Oh, and they just keep bringing
they
them
just
back.
Keep building more.
Yeah, I mean,
one of them was an alien though.
well, in Godzilla versus Kong, they like pilot it using like Ghidorah's carved out skull, and I think they destroyed that. So I don't think they could build another one the same way.
But
They'd
there's
have to
2
build it
other
different.
Ghidorah skulls.
That's true.
Well, no,
somewhere.
didn't one of them didn't some of them get crushed or whatever?
I don't remember.
I thought Godzilla cut one of them's head off.
Who knows?
I don't care.
There's gonna be a mecha gorilla. They never did a part where King Kong rides on Godzilla's back, holding his axe.
I don't think he can.
Doesn't matter. They need to do
I
that.
think that would be.
That
very
should be the
painful.
goal of the next one. Is to get to that point, since they're buddies now.
But Godzilla
Like,
could also
King
ride
Kong
on
should
Kong.
ride
They're
him
like the same
around.
size.
But
What if Godzilla rides on King Kong?
King Kong's is like a humanoid shape.
Well, Godzilla could still like just
They
go on
need
his back.
they need to do it. I'm just saying they need to do it. Okay, that should be their goal for the next
What
one.
if they give
Anyway,
them both mounts?
there was a teaser for Aquaman 2. Full trailer is supposed to come out tomorrow. The teaser was like 16 seconds long
Half of
and
it was
reused footage
Aquaman
from the
1.
first movie.
That they
And I
think
didn't-
they're trying to pawn off as footage.
And
from
I
the new
didn't
one.
notice until someone pointed it out on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if Aquaman 2 was just the first Aquaman again,
No one would notice.
I wouldn't notice. I
think they
don't
literally
remember
just-
anything that happened in Aquaman.
I think they color changed like some scenes.
They changed the aspect ratio and they like altered the contrast.
Yeah.
But Sam, this is the final film in the DCU. This is the last dying breath, the product of a bygone era.
At least when I say that it went out on a wet fart, it will actually be a pun because of Aquaman. I've been saying that for a long time, but this time it'll be a pun.
Of all of the DC movies they've had on their slate for the past couple of years, other than the Batman and the Joker, this one is the most likely to make money. So I don't know why this is the one they decided to spend no marketing dollars on.
Yeah, that was. I will never.
I
explain.
understand.
I will never understand.
I understand trying to back the Flash.
Yeah, because okay, that's a
Because
big
like
guy.
on paper, that one should have been really big, right? Multiverse is big now. It's got Batman in it, A-list DC character,
Yeah.
summer release date. Like that on paper works. Everything around that movie didn't, but that on paper looks good. Blue Beetle and Shazam 2, neither one of them got very big marketing, but
Shazam had pretty heavy marketing.
Shazam had okay marketing.
Shazam was on buses.
That's
You're on
true.
buses.
I
That's
saw
a lot
some
of
billboards for Shazam 2. But like that one had like a trailer ahead of time. Like this, they literally are releasing this trailer because everyone has been like, where's the trailer for this movie that's supposed to come out in 3 months? And they're just like, fine, here it is.
I'm really surprised they didn't push it back.
I'm surprised they haven't been like trying to push this one. Like the first Aquaman is the highest grossing DC movie ever made. And now that's mostly because of China, pretty much only because of China. But even if this one does half of that one, it'll still, one, be the highest grossing DC movie in 4 years and probably still be profitable. So
That's
honestly,
so sad.
yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Like I would be backing this one. This one has the best chance to at least make money.
This one should have been their big guy.
Like, because Shazam 2 made half of Shazam 1. But Shazam 1 wasn't very
Even
big.
Blue Beetle got a quite a decent marketing. But like there were trailers pretty much
I saw
on
some,
every network.
But like Aquaman 2, I don't know why they've just abandoned this one entirely. Especially since I guess he probably won't be able to promote this one, but like Jason Momoa is always super enthusiastic about this role. They got everyone back from the first
James
movie.
Gunn likes Aquaman.
This one has a star with controversy, but at least it's not the main person.
Is
And
Amber
James
Heard in
Wan,
it?
she's in it. James Wan said they dramatically reduced her role.
Well, and her dramas was
yeah, well,
kind of.
Ezra Miller was like,
Ezra Miller won't stop committing crimes, so it gets resurfaced like every once in a while, like every couple months.
well, also they shot the Flash like
years ago.
some stuff after he had been like already done all that.
Yeah.
Amber Heard at least like was convicted like a year after they finished shooting,
See, that's
or like found
that's the
guilty.
thing. The Ezra Miller was, I don't think, ever went to like court
Mm-mm.
for his stuff, whereas like
No.
Amber Heard's case was very, very public.
Mm-hmm. But apparently, this one is mostly Aquaman and King Orm together. They're gonna team up to fight Black Manta,
Okay.
who's looking for a different magic super trident.
Yeah, that's pretty much what he does.
It's probably in the titular Lost Kingdom. Yeah. Anyway,
Lost King.
Sam, do you remember anything that happened in Aquaman 1? Because I don't. Remember Nicole Kidman was trapped in a waterfall or something?
Aquaman goes to a gorge, wets on a table,
Yes.
and it plays a hologram
Yeah, in the desert.
in the desert. Apparently.
I remember everyone had
And
fake
then,
hair.
Then he fights for him.
I remember there's a
and
big
he
fight
whacks
at the
his
end.
Trident in half. Mecha Crab is there.
An octopus plays the drums.
Mike is not picking me up enough. And yeah, an octopus plays the drums. What else happens?
It's an orange outfit.
He wears orange.
He's gonna ride a seahorse in this one.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait. We saw it once in the theater when it came out, and I've literally never watched it.
No,
Nor really
'cause I
thought
think
about
we
it ever
saw
again.
it with Mama.
Yeah, we
like,
did.
at home.
That one time in the theater, we never watched it again.
How much in the theater?
Yeah, we never watched it again after that.
I know I have never attempted to see it again.
I have literally. It was so free. I don't remember any. I just remember thinking it was not very good.
It was.
and then-
It was fun. It was like the Fast and Furious of DC.
which makes sense because it's a Fast and Furious guy doing it,
Yeah, well, he is now.
and Jason Momoa's Fast and Furious guy now. Anyway,
right. What's what else?
Sam,
What's,
this
what
is
else?
this is some sad
Oh,
news. Honestly, this is probably the worst news we've
So,
ever had to read out on the
As
McDonCast.
usual, guys, we are at the forefront.
We are the
of
number
all
one
Sony
fans.
news. We break stories about Sony things going on.
We need to get
before
some
anyone
Sony
else.
brand. We need to get some Sony t-shirts.
And unfortunately, the Sinister 3 trio
Mm-hmm.
of movies,
What would have been the greatest 3 films ever made by far?
those being Morbius,
Craven the Hunter
Craven, and El Muerto. Unfortunately, El Muerto has officially been de-confirmed.
or as I put it in my notes, El Muerto es muerto.
Yeah, that's what I texted Tucker when the news story broke. I said, El Muerto es muerto.
Yeah. So Bad Bunny, yeah, he did an interview with Vanity Fair. He's allowed to do interviews because he's not SAG. He's a musician man.
And he's also based out of...
Yes. Said that he is no longer attached to play El Muerto in the Spum universe film. Sony has not confirmed that the movie is dead,
It's dead.
but multiple rumors and the insiders have been like, yeah, this thing has been dead for a while.
How is it that I was the one to come up with the headline "El Muerto es Muerto"? Why didn't Variety do that?
I don't know. They're cowards.
You'd think they would have been like, "Aha, the dead is dead." That's funny.
Well, I'm shell shocked. I'm surprised.
We will never emotionally.
We will never emotionally recover
This
from
is
this.
as sad as when the Powerpuff Girls
I think,
reboot got
Sam,
canceled.
We have to take this into our own hands
I don't think we have the
and
money.
crowdfund.
Actually, we probably do have the money for that.
I think we need to crowdfund and make it ourselves. I think we're announcing today we are opening a Kickstarter
I'm not setting up a
campaign.
Kickstarter for this. You want to do that? Go ahead.
for the McDon Media self-produced fan film of El Muerto, based on the 2 issues he's appeared in.
How much would it cost for us to get Bad Bunny?
Of a lot.
We should crowdfund just whatever the minimum number is to get him out for a day and shoot
every scene.
what like a 15-minute movie about El Muerto. Because how much content is there about El Muerto? Okay, what
2
do we,
issues.
What do we really need to make this movie, right? Like 1 luchador mask, a $15 Walmart Spider-Man costume. That's really it.
No, Spider-Man's not in it though.
Ours can have Spider-Man.
Ooh.
Ours will be better than the Sony one. That never happened.
I think this is great. I think you can contribute. I think this is a representation matters, Sam, and I don't think anything matters more than 2 white guys crowdfunding a movie about a fake Mexican wrestler with super strength
Who only shows up
who only
in
shows
1.5 issues
who
of
showed up
Spider-Man.
in 2 issues of a random Spider-Man comic, not even the main one. They're 20 years ago. I think this is the progress that needs to be made. Anyway, I'm sad for Sony.
Yeah, it sucks to see El Muerto.
I mean, if El Muerto can't get off the
Muerto.
ground, what can? Morbius 2. Now they have
Honestly,
room for
anything.
Morbius 2. Okay.
Anything I feel like would have done
Allocate
better
the
than
funds they would have spent on El Muerto to Morbius 2.
I think that would decrease the budget of Morbius too.
I think it would. Well, Sam, whatever it takes to get Morbius 2. I don't care if it costs $10. If there's a Morbius 2,
I don't care. I am willing to spend $10 whole
I don't
dollars
care.
on this project.
Yeah, I don't care. As long as there is a movie named Morbius 2 released in a movie theater, I'm on board with it.
Okay.
We need Morbius 2. I need to know what happened to scientist girlfriend
Scientist girlfriend character.
and Milo. Did he die at the end of that? Yes, he
um,
got killed by a big
Yeah,
swarm
he
of
was
bats.
eaten by bats. Even though I don't think bats do cannibalism.
We need to know what Morbius found intriguing about the Vulture's offer.
We need to know what he found in.
Yes. Okay.
Remember when Scorpion was in Spider-Man: Homecoming
Yes.
and he has not ever showed up in
That
any
movie
single
came
Marvel
out
project
6
since?
years ago.
What's going on with that?
I don't think they
That was
know.
only 6 years ago. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like Homecoming's older than that.
6 years ago. 2017. It feels older because they did those 3 Spider-Man movies like really, really fast. All 3 of them came out really.
Yeah,
like,
I guess they
within
all
2
came
years of
out
each other.
like fairly close to the end of
Far From Home came out
Infinity Saga.
in July of 2019, and then No Way Home came out in December of 2020. Like they were cranking those things out
Yeah.
fast. And I'm sure there'll be another one in like 2025. Which a 4-year
well,
gap.
maybe if the strike stops.
Well, you know that Tom Holland, he's a scab. He would do it.
So
No.
well, he's British. In the
I think he's
in the American
probably because he's
one.
probably got dual citizenship. Works here.
I don't think that's how.
I think he probably has to be in SAG because all of those Marvel productions are SAG. He has to be.
No,
in
but
SAG
I
for
think
them.
the British union like negotiates.
I think
SAG.
he's probably lives
They have
here,
their
right?
own rules because there are SAG productions that have like British represented actors in it, not part of.
I think he's
SAG.
definitely in SAG. I don't know what's going on with him, but I'm guessing he's not going to do Spider-Man right now. Nope, that's Timothée Chalamet. Yep. Anyway,
What else is happening?
David Zaslav, our boy, our 2 favorite people, everyone at Sony and David Zaslav.
You know they're keeping the world turning.
So David Zaslav, working man, down to earth guy,
Man of the people.
man of the people, David Zaslav. He was recently at the Goldman Sachs Communicopia and Technology Conference.
They are not an evil cabal.
Nope.
Definitely not.
Doesn't sound like a meeting between a bunch of billionaires.
Plotting to become billionaire square.
Trillionaires. Where he told those in attendance that Warner Brothers' real strength is in its IP, and he believes they have not been utilizing it enough.
Right.
In his words, he says they haven't done long-form Superman for 10 years, and we haven't done anything with Harry Potter for over a decade.
Again,
same with
I don't
Lord of the
disagree
Rings.
with him here.
Okay, but Superman, like, yeah, Man of Steel came out 10 years ago, but he was in like 4 other movies other than that one. Technically, it is long-form Superman. He was in a movie last year.
Okay, but that's not a story about Superman.
That's true. Well, but like BVS and Justice League, you were definitely about Superman.
I think he's thinking in the same way that like Iron Man was a long-term story.
Because he was
Superman was like a side part of 2 movies that are not about him.
And then he says not doing Harry Potter in a decade is just objectively wrong. They did 3 Fantastic Beasts movies.
Yeah, but that's not Harry
Again,
Potter.
one of them came out a year ago.
I think he means literally making
Having Harry Potter in the name.
Yeah.
That really restricts you on what you can do with the Harry Potter IP if it only can have Harry Potter in the name.
I don't think he's really thinking about that. I think he's going, we have this name that makes money. Why aren't we using it to make money? That's what he's doing. That's what he's saying. And again, I don't even think he's entirely wrong.
But they've been doing Harry Potter stuff.
When did the last Harry Potter movie
They did
come
a
out?
stage play.
When did the last Harry Potter movie come out?
2011?
Yeah, so that's 12 years been since Harry Potter had a movie.
Hallows Part 2. When did Part 2 come out? 2011. But like, they did 3 Fantastic Beasts. They did the Hogwarts Legacy game. That was big. They did the stage play on Broadway. That's been a pretty big thing. They've been doing things with the brand.
Changed my mind. New take. Harry Potter as a universe does not have the legs to make all this stuff.
It would if they weren't like super lazy with like what they were willing to do with it.
Like, I compare Harry Potter to Star Wars a lot because I feel like
they're the exact same story.
Yeah, that. But where they differ is Star Wars has infinite legs to like keep making expanded stuff. Because Star Wars, you go back a million years, you can tell cool stories. You go forward a million years,
okay,
you can tell cool stories.
That is technically true, and that any sci-fi thing you can just do anything. But like in terms of Star Wars itself, it pretty much always just ends up like regressing into people with blue or green laser sword fighting man with red laser sword.
But that's not because the universe.
And there's an empire and there's a rebellion.
That's
pretty
not
much
because
always
the
what
universe
it turns into.
itself is limited. That's because the creative people behind it are restricted. But like Mandalorian came out when it started, at least that was like a Western thing. Andor was like a political thriller. Like
genre-wise, yeah, you can.
Yeah, I'm saying Star Wars has infinite legs. You can tell a million stories in Star Wars universe, and they'll all have some unique take on Star Wars. Harry Potter, there's one take. There's no nuance. I mean, I'm sure that's maybe the Harry Potter fans are going to define me or something now that I've said that, but there's very little nuance in Harry Potter. Whereas, like, okay, let's take the 2 main villains, most known villains from each one. Voldemort. Voldemort is just evil. For, like, no real reason.
Pretty much, yeah.
Now, Palpatine is also evil for no real reason.
Neither me nor Sam have ever read a Harry Potter book.
I understand Harry Potter through the Lego sets.
That's Sam's basis of knowledge. I have seen the first Harry Potter movie, and I saw the Broadway play.
I know a lot about...
And I read the recap of the books in the playbill for the Broadway show.
I know a lot about the characters, because, like, when I was younger, I was really into, like, verses... like character content type thing. So I'd be like, well, this guy can do all these spells and they do all these things. So I'm fairly versed in the world of Harry Potter. I just haven't actually read the books. where
you know, the lore of Harry Potter.
But so whereas if now Palpatine is also evil for no particular reason. But he's not the face of the villains in Star Wars. Darth Vader is. And Darth Vader is a far more nuanced character than Voldemort. Voldemort's just mean. Anakin is like this character with a bit of a tragedy to him. You can examine Darth Vader.
You can track an evolution.
You can pick Darth Vader apart and find interesting things about him. If you pick Voldemort
character.
apart, he's just a mean, evil guy.
He's a mean,
with a
evil
weird
man
nose.
with no nose.
Was
He's
that in
played
the
by
books,
Ralph
or was that a
Fiennes.
thing they made up for the movie?
I think it's in both. Well, I think the book it describes him as like a plain, like white skull face.
Like the Red Skull, but he's white.
Yeah, and then I think in the movie they were just like, nah, it looks creepier
Nah,
if he
he's
has
just
no
a
nose.
thumb, actually.
He's just a big walking thumb.
All right. But yeah, I mean, I don't entirely disagree with this here. I mean, they have failed to capitalize properly.
He also
on
says
the DC brand.
they
as a
haven't done
whole.
anything with Lord of the Rings in a long time either. That one,
Yeah, that's pretty true. I mean,
That
they're
one's
making the
pretty
show on
true.
Amazon, and
they did the 3 Hobbit movies.
but I feel like that's more because of the rights surrounding expanding that universe
Okay,
more than it has been.
but they did the 3 Harry Potter movies. They did the they didn't
I thought there were
directly
4
do it
Harry
there,
Potter
but there
movies.
was the Amazon. Oh, not the Harry Potter. Lord of the Rings. They did the 3 Hobbit movies, and then they did the TV show.
Yeah.
Right. They've done games. They did all the Shadow of Mordor games. I mean, they've been doing stuff with Lord of the Rings. Again, similar to Harry Potter, but in a very different way. Like Lord of the Rings, you can't do really a whole lot else other than Lord of the Rings. Otherwise, people get very upset seeing
Yeah,
a TV show.
In a Lord of the Rings is kind of funny in the way that the fans treat it almost like a religion in terms of like the sacredness of the text.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars is constantly retconning and changing things. It's very lucid.
I think
you can play with it a lot more.
I think it's mostly because of like the highbrow or more highbrow. One, the Lord of the Rings books are much older. Two, J.R.R. Tolkien is dead, and George Lucas, J.K. Rowling. These people are all George R.R. Martin.
But if you
they're all
compare
still
it to,
alive.
like Lord of the Rings, that's also a lot more lucid. Like you can change it a lot more.
But people are like, they like when they do a spinoff of Star Wars. That's like a thing that is continued with George Lucas still alive. Like when J.R.R. Tolkien is dead, so when you alter his work, people kind of see it as like a bastardization of it, and less as of like an extension, because like he wasn't directly involved. Not that George Lucas or J.K. Rowling are directly involved in anything they're doing with either of those properties, but because they're like still around to see it, and I guess like
they can
endorse
comment
it or
on
not,
at the very
not
least,
endorse
yeah.
it, it's completely different. Also, unlike Star Wars was a movie meant for like vast, like public consumption, and just like immediately became this massive
Yeah.
franchise. Lord of the Rings was like a series of like classical novels. So I don't. It's a whole different dynamic between the like those books and every other IP out there.
And even when they do take creative liberties and they kind of stretch it more, like we see with the Rings of Power show, not really a big face for Lord of the
No.
Rings nowadays. I think that's kind of died off as a thing
Well,
people are interested in.
The books came out almost like over 70, like around 70 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So anyone who read those books when they came out is probably dead. So your average person who is like aware of Lord of the Rings is aware of those Peter Jackson movies. And those Peter Jackson movies are that one set trilogy set in stone and is one of the greatest, probably the greatest movie trilogy of all time. Those 3 Lord of the Rings movies.
How long ago did those come out?
About 20 years ago.
So
Again, I think it's just like people see it as like a set. Like this is the story.
yeah.
And I think it's just because it's those 3 movies, like
So
definitively.
you're saying it was peak when it came out.
Well, like it stopped.
It hit its peak
Well, like,
as soon as it was made.
It stopped and started, and there was never any intention to do anything else with it.
Yeah, it was a story with an ending,
With a beginning,
in
middle,
mind.
and an end. Yeah.
And like Star Wars has no end; it just keeps going.
I'll just keep going. Well, and also again, Star Wars, like immediately, like they were doing comic books and audiobooks and video games and just like whatever they could.
Yeah,
Lord of the Rings, it was always just like this is the thing, and then
this
it's done.
is the story. Yeah.
And then then now they've just been like picking scraps out of like his
And I guess you know what? Yeah,
old journals to like find stuff
even
to make
Game
shows
of Thrones
about.
very much doesn't really have a beginning and an end. It
No,
you see
it just continually
it's just a piece
goes.
of their world, and it continues
Like
beyond that.
the
And
Lord of the Rings is technically
happened
3
before.
books, but it's really one.
yeah, that are just split.
It's
up.
really The Hobbit, which is a shorter kids book,
Yeah,
and
not
then
even
Lord of the Rings,
really
which is the
more.
main text.
Yeah,
It's just those 2 things. There's obviously I know I know there's the
Silmarillion?
Samarillion. I know there's that stuff.
But
There's
that's like
all
a
that.
lore book. That's not even
But
like a story.
that does. I'm not including that. Like, I don't know. It's just the way that
That's
franchises.
that's like reading the
established.
novelizations of Star Wars and being like, oh, don't forget the DK character glossary. Like that's not like part of the story.
Well, because if I say there's just the 2 Lord of the Rings books, and someone out there's going to be like, actually, there's the children of blah blah blah. I know there's a million. There's a million of those now.
2
Because
matter.
they've been doing just. They found George.
There are 2 that
They
matter.
found J.R.R. Tolkien's like great step nephew, and he's just been writing the books in the Tolkien
That's
name.
so strange. It's just like your great grandpa wrote some books, and you're just like still doing that.
It's strange until those royalty checks come in, and then it's not so strange anymore.
No, I
And then
mean,
it's pretty
I'm not
nice.
talking about like monetarily. I'm saying like the idea of you not having a legacy because your entire life you spent continuing that of your dead ancestors.
Yeah, I could see how that. Again, I think the checks outweigh the like mental toll.
But like he could have written like his own thing.
Yeah, but you know, Lord of the Rings, that's guaranteed sales.
Yes.
And you know, you walk in a room, you'd be like, "I'm related to Tolkien." People are like, "Yo, I know who that is."
Do you write other books that take place in the same universe? Like that's so weird.
No, but like you get clout from having the name, like
yeah,
because whether or not you have any talent, someone thinks you do just because you have the same name.
yes.
Anyway, there's more to this that he said. So those Zaslav mentioned that these big properties was one of the big differentiators of this company. He also noted we've got to be careful not to overuse the content. He also noted that when you look at the performance of Warner Brothers over the past 20 years without accounting for these properties, it's relatively flat. When you put these franchises in, it's the best performing studio in the world. We need to deploy our best capital, and we need to do it with the best creative people in the world.
You mean without your IP, your studio is worthless?
So
That's what he said.
yeah, obviously, Batman is carrying your studio, and if you
That's
stopped
a
making
really-
Batman,
That's a really insulting take to your studio.
if you didn't have Batman, you'd be
If
pathetic.
we didn't have these 100-year-old
So he's really narrowing
stories,
it down to 3 brands.
if we didn't have these 100-year-old stories that we've been repackaging for our entire existence, the creative minds here would flounder and perish. That's what he said.
Yeah,
That's like that to me. If I was like anyone who was like trying to come up with an original project at Warner Brothers, I'd be like, all right, cool.
guess they don't care. Guess I have to go write Plastic Man now.
Guess I have to make Superman
Guess
12.
they're gonna have me make Aquaman 3. Imagine having to make Aquaman,
Probably never happen.
and not now, unless this next one makes.
It was never gonna happen.
What if it makes $1 billion?
They-
What if it's a
still,
giant
it
hit?
won't matter.
What if out of nowhere this is just a giant hit?
That's exactly what happened with the first one, and look how much they care about the second one. It was an out of nowhere massive hit, and no one cares
one
about
cared.
the second one.
Anyway, yeah. So Warner Brothers is doing their thing. When do you think these IPs will run out of steam?
See, here's the thing: if you are good,
Oh, by the way, sorry. So he says they have a 10-year plan in the works at DC. That's what they got James Gunn for.
we already know that.
Harry Potter is going to go for 10 years on HBO. They're going to do that show.
Sure, okay.
10 years on HBO. That's such a long and then they said they're going to do multiple Lord of the Rings movies. We know that they're doing the animated one next year.
That's not.
Presumably more after that. They're definitely going to do more live action ones. 100%. I would not be shocked if they just straight up do a sequel.
What if they
Or try to do a sequel.
What if the animated Lord of the Rings movie that they're making is a sequel to the animated one from before Peter Jackson made?
Like the Rolf Bakshi one?
Yeah, the like rotoscoped one.
Well, it would be a prequel. It'd be cool if they rotoscoped it.
Again,
They won't.
that'd be sick.
I think it's like an anime studio doing it.
Oh. Rings anime?
Well, it's a film. Let me see if I
Yeah,
can...
but if it's by an anime studio, anime.
Let's see. Boop, 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 bop. Who's doing it? I want to know. It's going to take me a minute to find it.
Meantime, comment down below what's your favorite brand of
Being
peanut butter
directed
is?
by Kenji Kamiya. That's definitely not his name. He did the Blade Runner Black Lotus anime. Remember that?
Oh, the CGI one?
Yeah, he did a short on Star Wars Visions. He's done some Ghost in the Shell stuff, some Ultraman stuff. So he's an anime guy.
He's the guy that they call to like resurrect the dead franchise.
Did some work on DuckTales from 1987.
The original one.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's had a very strange
Has
career.
he ever directed anything before? I don't think he has. Yeah, I think this is his first like main feature directing effort. Anyway,
Interesting.
moving on. Sam, Marvel Studios VFX workers have voted unanimously to unionize. They're going to be joining the IATSE, which is the
IATSE.
yeah,
The one that
is
does
it the
everything?
internet? I think it's internet. I don't think it's international. Something alliance of theatrical stage employees. It's the union that everyone who isn't a writer, actor, or director is a member.
This
of.
one makes that makes a little more sense to me than when they were doing who was the other one that they oh, the video game people. IATSE.
Probably, I don't know.
But I don't know. This makes more sense to me because I mean, VFX can be
Yeah, so this is the first, in any way, major VFX unionization effort in history.
which is also, I mean, long overdue.
Yeah.
Long overdue.
The next stage of the
Hopefully
process
this will
is
finally
collective
mean that we
bargaining with
get like
studios.
some less bad.
Hopefully, it means they can
Guy.
work like definitive hours and not like miss their children's births.
Yeah, so like we'll get
To
more
animate-
quality products.
Yeah, and it'll take more time. The thing that causes literally all of these things to be bad is that they rush them, and if you make them take more time, you get a better quality product.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the
Either
reason.
that or you
Not
gotta hire
there's a
more
reason Ant-Man looks like crap. It's because they filmed it a month before it came out.
people. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's that. Good on them. They should go on strike immediately, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they probably will. I fully expect them to. I mean, everyone else is. They don't want to be left out.
No, everyone should.
They want to join the
They
gang.
should
They
all go on
want to
strike.
join the crew.
All right. Next thing. Let's talk some summer movie numbers.
Let's get
Sam.
into that board now
So,
that summer is officially
Now that
over.
summer's over. Ugh. Is this on frame? Is this in frame?
That is in frame.
Okay. These were our final summer numbers. I got it here. So Sam picked 8 out of 10 correct in the summer top 10. His 2 misses were The Flash and Fast X. Neither one of them made the top 10 domestic box office.
Again, I thought it was going to be international. That's why I put fast.
I also put 8.
You're drifting out of frame.
Oh, sorry. I also got 8 out of 10 correct. However, I only had 1 placed in the correct place. That was, let me see here. I put it down. That was Guardians 3 at number 3. That lined up with the actuals. Sam, however, had 3 in the
I
correct
don't
place.
miss, except for the 7 other ones.
You
but I
had
don't
Indy
miss.
5 at 7, Mission Impossible at 8, and Elemental at 10. So, Sam, you are the summer box office champion
Yay, I got it
for
right.
this year. Obviously, neither one of us were wrong about number 1. I was so horribly wrong about number 1 and 2. I had Indy 5
See,
at 1.
I was saying from day one, Barbie was gonna pop off.
So Sam
And
had Barbie
everyone doubted me. No one believed me. I was the only one. I was like, Barbie is gonna explode, and I was right.
So, if you look here, I was so horribly wrong about many things. So, I had The Flash at number 2. That didn't even crack the top 10.
Let's go.
I can pull it up for you here in a second where it actually ended up landing, because it was way more embarrassing. Here we go.
I'm surprised that Transformers ended up on the.
I was too.
top
There was 2 that snuck in here. Transformers came in here at number 9,
I think Elemental's also the only one that was on here
and
twice.
Sound of Freedom was obviously the wild card that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that
didn't even have a release date when we
that
did
movie
these.
just appeared.
The Flash ended up at number 12.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Who would have guessed that out of Elemental and The Flash, which opened the same weekend,
That's hilarious.
that Elemental would have done
won
$50
out.
million more domestically
That's
than
so.
The Flash
I
did.
love that. That's actually amazing.
Yes, The Flash was a horrible failure. So my 1 and 2 are embarrassing. I had Guardians 3 in the right place. I called that one right. I had Fast X at 4. Again, that didn't even make the top 10. It just barely missed out at number 11. Mission Impossible I had at 5. It ended up being much lower. Spider-Verse I had way too low.
Spider-Verse also, popped off
Spider-Verse
in a way that we
was
didn't
number
really
2.
expect.
That was number 1 for most of the summer, and then
And then Barbie exploded.
until the Barbie nuclear bomb hit. Little Mermaid at 7 ended up being a little bit higher. Elemental at 8 ended up being just barely in the top 10. for some dumb reason, put Barbie at number 9. Obviously,
I do not understand why.
I should have put it higher. I don't know why it ended
even
up
back
so much
back
lower.
when we started. I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Because I was sensing hype for it. I don't know why I ended up putting it so low. And then Oppenheimer 10. Okay, Oppenheimer at 10. Thinking back to May, that
made sense in May.
That made some sense. Who like a 3-hour R-rated biopic?
See, I put it a lot higher because I was like, Christopher Nolan hasn't
high?
made a slammer recently, so he's probably gonna. This one could swing out.
Yeah,
it did. It popped off pretty.
So Sam
pretty
was
hard.
obviously pretty much on the money.
Actually,
for the most
yeah.
part.
If you swap Little Mermaid and Oppenheimer, those are all
Spider-Verse
pretty much right.
Higher than he put it. Barbie, of course, number 1. But other than that, yeah, we both put the Flash on there. Obviously, that did not pan out.
Yeah.
Guess we should have called Transformers. But
See, I forgot Transformers was coming out when I made this list.
Yeah. Anyway, I knew it was coming out. I was just thinking, like, it's been 6 years since the last one. Nobody liked it. It didn't do very well.
No, when I made that list, I literally looked up like summer movies, and I didn't even register Transformers. I ignored it completely.
But okay, here we go. So overall, summer box office up 16% over last year.
Which makes total sense.
Not the number
given,
my
like,
microphone popped out
COVID
of the
was
side.
like still dying off.
Up 16% over last year. Hit $4 billion in total grosses. That's the 13th time that's happened. Barbie and Oppenheimer combined for 22% of the summer box office.
That's crazy.
Which is
It makes sense, but that's crazy.
So we had 13 movies gross over 100 million, which is up from 9.
Wait,
last year.
Wasn't Mario? Wait, no, that came out.
That came out in April. 5 films made over 200 million, which is the same as last year. So obviously our number 1, Barbie, $612 million domestically.
What else is there to say? You guys already know.
Almost twice as much as number 2, which was Spider-Verse at $380 million, which was really, really, really good.
And also super surprising. We did not think Spider-Verse was gonna go that hard.
I think we knew it was going to be bigger than Into the Spider-Verse.
But I didn't think. I thought because it was animated,
not as much
it wasn't going to crack
hype.
as high.
Yeah. Obviously, it didn't do anything near what No Way Home did, but I think that's unrealistic to expect out of any movie. Guardians 3, I think, did about where everyone was expecting to, $358 million domestically. Oppenheimer, 310, which is nuts.
Crazy for Oppenheimer.
Little Mermaid did 298, which is actually on the stronger end of, or at least on par with other domestic.
But it was also the only like live action kids movie I think that came out also.
Well, so if you remember back when The Little Mermaid came out in April, there was a lot of yelling on the internet about it being woke, and it ended up doing about what the Aladdin remake did domestically.
Makes sense because the audience is probably exactly the same.
However, it did much, much, much worse internationally. So Aladdin did $355 million domestically back in 2019. Little Mermaid did $298. So less, $60 million less, but still like not abysmal.
I think Aladdin also had some like Bollywood hype.
However, Aladdin had almost 700 million internationally. Little Mermaid only did 270. That's really bad.
For some reason, didn't Aladdin like really pop off in India?
Maybe take me a minute to
I
find that
vaguely
data.
remember hearing that like it blew up.
Let me and there's countries.
Yeah, but India has like a huge.
It did best in the US, and then UK, Spain, Germany, France, Italy, Netherlands, and then the UAE. That did about, yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of
Maybe you're thinking of the UAE. But anyway, so Little Mermaid, of course, that had a $250 million budget compared to the $200 million budget on Aladdin. So bigger budget, less money. It did really well on Disney Plus when it dropped this last week. So I think
every big like kid targeted movie.
I think that was a tale of parents being like, I don't want to have to sit in a movie theater with my kids and control them for 2 hours. I'll wait to watch it at home.
Also, it's the summer. I have 2 5-year-old girls. Boop.
Yeah.
Now they're quiet for an hour.
Yep. Put on Encanto, put on Moana. That's what Disney Plus is for. That's really what Disney Plus is for. It's the babysitting app. If you look at the Nielsen top 10, it's just like the same 3 Disney Plus movies week after week after week.
It's the 3 most recent princess movies.
It's Moana,
and the 2 most recent live action ones.
and Frozen. Just those 3.
Yeah, the 3 most recent princess movies.
Sound of Freedom, obviously the big out of nowhere hit, 183 million domestically. Became a political thing, of course.
That was so weird.
Came out of
The
nowhere.
politics surrounding that movie, I think, was some of the worst discourse I'd ever seen in my entire life. Oh, he's getting a lemonade. Yeah, that was so funny. I loved how I don't even want to. It was just great, all around phenomenal.
As every movie has nowadays.
One side was like, "Oh, it's a conspiracy. They don't want you to see this movie. Everyone go see this movie." And the other side was like, "Hey, not all pedophiles are bad." I was like, "Whoa, that's insane." So, yeah, the discourse around that movie got pretty freaking crazy.
Yeah. Honestly, if I was these like conservative-leaning movie studio people,
I doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on this.
Cut the budget and put in a third of the effort.
Yeah, no, make like 15 more of these.
You just make it. It doesn't even have to be a good movie. If you just make it a political thing, then you make money on it.
But see, the movie wasn't even political. Like the
No.
movie itself was like not a political movie.
No, it was originally going to be released by Disney.
Yeah, it just for reasons that are too confusing and stupid.
And then the
to
Fox
explain.
merger happened. There was a bunch of legal loopholes.
Yeah, and it got
was just
lost.
picked up by a studio. This thing was shot 4 years ago.
Yeah, no, this movie was not like the movie itself was not political at all. It was very.
It was made
it
a
was
political
just a solid
thing.
movie. It wasn't
Yeah.
great. It wasn't bad. It was just fine. But the discourse around it, propelled it beyond all reasonable measure. And because the movie
and yelling,
because the movie was actually decent, people went to go see it, and they were like, "Oh, that's good. That's a good
and honestly,
movie."
it's good that it succeeded. It's an original film made by a smaller studio
The
at a
story
low
behind
budget.
the guy is actually really cool.
So it's all good. It's just that
A
it
discourse around
became so
was
toxic
weird.
that no one wanted to talk about any. No one wanted to talk about the movie. I would have a guess 80% of the people who were talking about the movie never saw the movie
Yeah,
or know anything about it. They just saw articles online and started yelling. One of the biggest failures of the year was in at number 7, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, 174 million domestically. Another colossal failure behind it, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
see, and the Indiana
170
Jones,
million
I called that
domestically.
one too. I called that really early on. I was like, Indiana Jones is a dead franchise. They haven't made content in like 20 years.
It's been 15 years
Yeah,
since
I
anything Indiana
fully
Jones.
expected the fact that it had been completely stagnant for the
Yeah.
last decade and a half to cripple the movie, and it did. I right on the money again.
Also, somewhat of a political thing, but I think the zero nourishment provided to that franchise for the 15 years was probably the biggest factor in that movie.
100%. No, because the only reason why Star Wars movies like still had like a lot of like
because
hype
they kept making
is 'cause
Star
they
Wars
kept
things.
making there were games coming out on a yearly basis. Clone Wars show was carrying the franchise, and after that, Rebels picked up and kept
They had
kept right on
toys
going.
and
The
comics.
toys kept coming out. There was a lot of culture around Star Wars
Mhm.
still. As soon as Crystal Skull came out, all Indiana Jones hype plummeted to an all-time low, and then stayed there until now, and then it didn't really recover. It kind of just simmered. So
Transformers: Rise of the Beast came out at number 9. That one actually didn't end up performing that well either, but it came out at
again,
number 9.
not surprising.
Elemental,
Transformers is also
another one
kinda
that
dead.
ended up not performing very well, just came in at number 10, 153 million. Elemental had the best legs out of all these movies by far.
Yeah, just kept on
That
going.
one just kept chugging.
kept
It
on
opened
going.
really low. Everyone pretty much just thought it was going to end up being
Everyone wrote it off right away, and
wrote
it
it
just
off,
did,
thought
would
it was
not
just going to
die.
be nothing. It
That's
just kept making its money week after week.
what's
I think that's
what's the
gonna
Rocky
be-
movie where he goes like a bunch of rounds.
Rocky 1.
Yeah, it was just like Rocky 1, except for he didn't lose.
Mhm.
He just kept winning.
Well, it kind of lost. It didn't make any money theatrically, but
But it kept winning.
it made enough, and it'll probably turn up a profit on. It's going to get good viewership on Disney Plus. It'll probably make some money on PVOD and physical
I
media.
think even maxed out potential Turbo, Ultimatrix, Mega Evolution, perfect scenario for this movie to release in. I think it still would have made about what it made here. Because
you think if they had done
was let's be honest, pretty average animated kids movie.
okay, you think if this had come out in like a 2019 cinema environment, you don't think it would have done much better?
No, I don't think so. And so like if Soul came out in perfect turbo, all those things I said, perfect environment, I think it would have done extraordinarily well because that was a much more it just felt more real. It felt like a more genuine story. Whereas Elemental, I'm not saying it didn't feel genuine or didn't feel like real, but it was very cookie cutter, very by the book almost.
Couple films to contrast Elemental. Another Disney film that opened really low, but then was just ironically dead on arrival and just didn't go anywhere, was Haunted Mansion.
Oh, that didn't count.
If The Flash and Indiana Jones hadn't come out this year, this is the giant bomb we would be talking about.
That movie didn't come out.
$150 million budget, definitely more than that. This is what they're reporting. 106 worldwide gross.
This
is upwards of
believe.
Probably, and this one had a big marketing budget too. There was a lot.
Yeah,
of
there were ads everywhere. There were freaking.
This probably lost
ads.
Maybe $200 million.
I fully believe that this movie did not actually come.
Why?
I think it was a conspiracy.
So the reason this movie came out this summer was that The Marvels was supposed to open in July.
Yeah.
That needed reshoots. They pushed it back to November.
So they pushed this one up.
They moved this one up into late July to make up, because I guess Disney was like, we need to fill it all in this calendar. It was supposed to come out in September, late September.
More sense.
I still don't think it would have been a hit.
No, it would have died.
If it came out in September, it would have done better. Because it's a Halloween thing.
Vibes.
Yeah. But releasing a very obviously, and okay, there's a difference between a Halloween movie and a horror movie. Horror movies can do better year round, right?
Yeah.
Because horror is a genre. But fun, spooky atmosphere, family entertainment, that's for Halloween.
There's a difference
because the only time families want to be spooked is around Halloween.
Yeah, there's a difference between horror and spooky. This is a
spooky movie. This is a Hotel Transylvania. And this is an Addams Family thing. This should come out in September, October.
To be honest, Disney is not capable of making a horror movie because they want everything to be clean and nice and family friendly.
Sam, they made one this summer.
I'm talking Disney, not like one of
not
Disney's
not
weird
Fox, not Disney Fox.
5 companies down the line companies. I'm talking about Disney. Disney is not going to make a horror movie ever. That will never be a thing. And when you release...
Well, they used to do Touchstone.
Yeah, but they don't even do that anymore.
No.
And even Touchstone didn't really release horror
movies.
movies.
They did just like slightly risque things.
Yeah, they released movies that were like, might make your 6-year-old uncomfortable. Like, that's really where they
that should have been their tagline. Might make your 6-year-old uncomfortable.
But like, no, Disney will never make a horror movie. And when you have a spooky movie with this type of budget, this type of setting, and this level of cast, because the cast was insane, that will not work because you expect horror from that.
And obviously, this thing was hit pretty hard by the SAG strike. It's obviously got an absurdly famous cast.
Yeah.
And the marketing would have been sending them out to do a bunch of press, and they couldn't.
That did not.
They couldn't even do the premiere. Remember, they had all the.
Yeah, they had Disney characters.
They had all the Disney character actors show up from the theme park. Another animated film that was a absolute horrible bomb. I think you know which one this is. Actually, you probably forgot about it. Sam, do you remember Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken?
I do remember that movie being said that it was coming out. That's another one that I don't believe is real.
This came out. This one had a pretty low budget, only $70 million, $42.8 million worldwide gross.
Yeah, that checks.
Had not a heavy marketing campaign. Had a little marketing campaign. Well, it probably wasn't that expensive, but yeah, that is nowhere near profitable. This one's not going to make up for it on PVOD, and no one has said a word about this movie. I haven't heard anything about it being terrible. It's just
I've heard nothing. No one said anything about it.
No one said anything about it. So in terms of the top 10, Disney has 4 in the top 10. Sony has 1. They snuck Spider-Verse in there. That was really their only big release this summer anyway. Universal got 1 in there. Would have had 2 if Fast X stuck around. Paramount had 2. Warner Brothers had 1, but it was a big one. And Angel Studios, of course, had 1. So let's talk about the big winner. Of course. We all know what it is. It's Barbie. Highest grossing film of the summer. Highest grossing film of the year domestically and internationally.
I think it's Warner Brothers' highest grossing movie.
Highest grossing film in the history of Warner Brothers. The highest grossing film ever solely directed by a woman. Only one behind Frozen 2, which is co-directed by a woman.
Yeah.
13th highest grossing film of all time. Domestically, 15th highest grossing worldwide. Intelligence, which is a data collection company for like entertainment, estimates that over 50 million people saw Barbie in a movie theater. The Quorum is reporting that it pulled in 55% of infrequent moviegoers. That's the that's the demographic you need to be a global mega hit. So your frequent moviegoers are like once a month, maybe. Your super frequent goers are once a week, which is us.
Yeah.
And then then you have your infrequent.
I mean, think about who came with us to see Barbie. It was two people that literally never come to see movies with us.
That's true. And then your infrequent moviegoers are like once or twice a year. They show up for your Avatars, your Avengers Endgames,
and apparently
your Top Gun Mavericks, and your Barbies. On a budget of $150 million, advertising budget also $150 million. If you factor in all of the complex numbers, this data was crunched by a box office analyst, my boy Dan Merle. $340 million in profit at the global box office, which is like 8 times the closest guy. Like absolutely absurd profit margin on this thing.
Big money.
And it's going to do huge numbers on PVOD. You're going to see clips of it posted on TikTok on a daily basis. It's going to be big when it comes to stream on Max. It's going to be a giant moneymaker for them.
Yeah.
As soon as the strike is over, they're going to have Greta Gerwig's name signed on to do 8 more of these things.
Oh, they're going to pump these out.
They're going to just pump these Barbies out every other year.
They're going to make as many Barbie movies
until
as there
it's
are
diminishing
Barbies.
returns. That's going to be the goal. Until it just gets embarrassing how poorly they perform.
Yeah, that's what every movie studio does with every single brand that they have.
Mm-hmm.
All right, before we move on to the next thing, I got to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Shane?
Oh, okay. So moving on, Oppenheimer, another big hit of this year, of course. Highest grossing movie to ever. Okay, this is a weird stat. Highest grossing movie to never be number 1 at the domestic box office. So at no point during this movie's run was it the number 1 movie of the weekend. However, it ended up being the second highest grossing R-rated movie of all time, $850 million gross on a $100 million budget with $100 million print and advertising budget, estimated profit of $111 million. Now I know what you're thinking. Sounds pretty low for a movie that was this much money and brought in and was cost relatively not super expensive. Christopher Nolan, because of the deal he negotiated with Warner Brothers, got $77 million off this film.
I thought this one wasn't with Warner Brothers.
Oh, sorry, Universal. Yeah, you're right. Thank you for catching me. He got $77 million at this movie's gross.
That's a lot of the movie.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan can pretty much fund his own next movie if he really wanted to.
Yeah, if he wanted to make like a smaller budget one.
Yeah, so that's crazy. It's his highest grossing film outside of his Batman stuff, of course.
Nothing's going to make more.
Highest, yeah. Sound of Freedom, of course, another big hit. Reported budget around $14.5 million, marketing budget of $5 million. However, its marketing budget was raised entirely through crowdfunding. So that was a zero net cost to the studio. Brought in $185 million. That's probably going to be $100 million in profit from that film, especially since that one had really great legs. If your movie has really great legs and it makes more money that way, the studio rakes in more from that than they do the opening weekend.
Yeah.
So, and then Spider-Verse, of course, big hit. Spider-Verse did twice as much as Into the Spider-Verse did. Highest grossing comic book movie of the year domestically.
That's crazy that it beat out
Only
Guardians
$100 million budget. Guardians 3 was the highest grossing comic book movie internationally. Of course, that one cost $250 million. It was the most expensive in the trilogy. About $844, a little bit less than Guardians 2, but still a pretty good return, pretty big hit. Picked up the slack of Ant-Man and the Wasp that Disney kind of took at the beginning of the year. Kind of put them back on track, although we'll see what happens with the next one. The Guardians franchise ended up with over $2 billion in terms of worldwide domestic box office grosses when you combine all three films. That's pretty good for them.
Yeah.
In terms of flops, Mission Impossible, budget of $290, highly inflated due to COVID.
Yeah.
Lots of stops and
A
starts.
lot of it was filmed during.
They were filming. It took about 2 years to film this whole thing, and of course had a giant marketing budget. However, it was only a global gross of $560 million. Second lowest grossing in the franchise, unadjusted for inflation. Only did more than Mission Impossible 3. Made $225 million less than Fallout did back in 2018. Going to lose about $155 million in the theatrical marketplace. Honestly, this one should have done better.
It was actually really good.
Good movie, well marketed. Tom Cruise is off the biggest hit in his career.
This was the best action movie that was also just actually good.
I think this one was mostly hurt by its release date. It came out right before Barbie.
Yeah.
It didn't have any IMAX screens because of Oppenheimer.
And this movie really deserved it. The like stunt at the end
Yeah.
was definitely shot with like a big screen in mind.
Yeah, this just had all the air sucked out of its lungs. If this had come out in September, if this had come out this last
came out,
week,
like, right now, yeah,
it
would
would
have
do
exploded.
$700 million. If it had come out in August, it would have done way better.
Yeah, it just that was one of the most like crowded summer movie.
I think a lot of people
like,
are making
runs
fun
ever.
of Paramount's scheduler, and I think there's a lot to be said about that because Transformers came out right in between Spider-Verse and The Flash and Elemental. Mission Impossible came out right between Indiana Jones and Barbenheimer. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out like right at the dead end of the summer. So
Yeah, really bad timing.
really
for all
bad
three.
timing for all three. Another just absolutely massive bomb, and pretty well deservedly so. Sam, why don't you guess what this one is? I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with the Smash.
Is it the Fast?
It's the
Flashiest
Flashiest Man Alive. Budget of $225 million. Definitely more though. If you add in development cost in terms of like
The 20 years leading up to the movie.
this thing has to have cost like $400 million.
A version of this movie has been in development
Since the
for,
80s.
like almost 30 years.
Well over 30 years. Global gross of $267 million. Had a massive marketing budget, probably north of $200 million in terms of marketing. It is projected to lose north of $200 million. Sixth consecutive box office bomb from the DCEU. The Flash, Shazam, Black Adam, The Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey. I'm missing one in between there, but I know
There's another one.
there's another one. This is before Blue Beetle. So Blue Beetle makes it 7, by the way.
Was Blue Beetle also a big
Not as
sad
much because
movie?
it didn't have nearly as high of a budget,
Yeah.
and way less marketing spend on that one than, of course, The Flash did. But 7 consecutive DCEU flops. Normally, you stop after like the third. You usually don't do 4 more and then have another one ramping up here in a minute.
That's because I've never seen a company double down and undouble down the same time the hardest more than DC. They would both double down on their bad decisions and retcon them at the same time.
They were
all
playing-
the time.
Oh, I gotta close that door.
It was literally like a nearly weekly occurrence sometimes that they would go out and change a decision they made and then unchange it.
They were playing both sides, so they always came out on top.
But they only ever came out on bottom. I don't think they won.
Indiana Jones 5, also massive failure. Budget of $295 million. Probably more than that.
Again, there was no world where this movie
Global
was not a flop.
gross $371 million. Projected to lose over
That's
$200
not
million
even
for Disney.
bad. That's like actually like
No.
a good
A lot of the
return.
movies this summer, it was a case of
way over budget.
not underperforming, but budget was massive.
The budget should have been
I mean-
half that.
Indiana Jones 5, $300 million budget, practically. Mission Impossible, practically a $300 million budget. Even Guardians 3, $250 million. Little Mermaid, $250 million. I mean, these are... Guardians 3 costing $50 million more than Guardians 2 is like, come on. Little Mermaid, $50 million more than Aladdin or The Lion King. That's crazy. Indiana Jones made half of what Crystal Skull did in 2008, unadjusted for inflation. It is the lowest grossing movie in the franchise, unadjusted for inflation. It made less money
That's awesome.
than a movie in 1981. Just zero interest from anyone in that film, I would say.
Again, maybe movie franchise designed for 40-year-old men that is 40 years old. Maybe it's run out of steam a little bit.
So in terms of the studios, our big five, Disney lost an estimated $621 million this summer, in terms of combining all its releases. Paramount lost $328 million. Universal lost $288 million. Sony managed to only lose $127 million. They, of course, had Spider-Verse, but they also had No Hard Feelings.
That was a Sony movie?
That was a Sony movie. Insidious
How do you
5
make a
was a
movie
Sony
where
movie.
Jennifer Lawrence is naked and
It did okay. It just had a pretty high, again, another high budget.
Okay, how on earth did that movie have a high budget?
Jennifer Lawrence got a real big paycheck.
It was literally okay, but she was the only A-list actor in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was her, a bunch of random NBC actors.
Had Matthew Broderick.
Okay, and Matthew Broderick was there too, I guess. But the movie had no big set pieces. It took place. I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen some clips of it. It took place mostly in a house, in a school, in their front yard. How do you spend that much money on that?
That one cost $45 million. $87 million return. So pretty good return for R-rated comedy.
That's not bad,
especially since those haven't been doing well at all recently. But that one's gonna go to Netflix. That's gonna be big on Netflix.
That's gonna be huge on Netflix.
That's gonna be a huge movie on Netflix, and you're gonna
that one.
That's
will
another
probably
one.
Make its money
Well,
back
you'll
through
see
Netflix.
clips just start popping up on TikTok, and that
They're
Netflix
already popping
viewership
up, yeah.
will just skyrocket.
That is a made for Netflix. That
Yeah,
movie should have just
100%.
released on Netflix.
Well, it's good that they gave it a theatrical release, and it did pretty well. And it's probably going to turn a profit if you combine the theatrical gross with its eventual PVOD gross. And Sony is actually smart in that they sell their movies to Netflix, so they make money on selling things to streaming, unlike every other
They must
studio.
have fired whoever came up with that idea, because he was the only smart person at Sony.
He's the only one.
That was
who's
the
ever-
only guy.
He's the only guy at Sony who's ever had a good idea.
They fired.
He was like, guys, before we invest in Sony Plus, Netflix is going to give us $100 million for Venom 2.
I think if you have a good idea at Sony, I think if your idea makes them a certain amount of money, they fire you.
They should just fire you.
I
Only
think
bad
I
ideas.
think they do that.
Only bad ideas allowed here at Sony.
Yeah, okay. How else do you explain?
We love you, Sony. You can never do anything
How
wrong.
else do you explain the Kraven the Hunter movie? Especially after Morbius came out.
Well, they were already making it before Morbius.
So cancel it. Stop making it.
But it's already
How
shot.
do you make Morbius and then make it again and think it will work out this time?
What if it's a big hit?
It's not.
What if
You already released it.
What if it's going to be a big hit, though?
It won't.
What if it's a big hit?
It can't.
What if
It actually is incapable of that.
Hold up. What if we put the Vulture in a post-credit scene?
Oh, that's true. What if he says? What if he needs him?
Warner Brothers.
To...
Sam, guess who made the most money out of every studio this summer?
It's got to be just Warner Brothers.
It's Warner Brothers.
Yeah, because they had Barbie.
So, despite the fact that The Flash was the biggest embarrassment in studio history,
They also had their biggest success.
they also had their
history.
biggest success in studio history. Barbie single-handedly brought them into the green. They made an estimated $21 million in profit in the box office alone this year.
Were they the only one that turned a
They were the
profit
only
over
one that
summer?
turned a profit, other than Angel Studios, which had the one
How-
movie that made a lot of money.
How do we live in a world where you can
Sam,
release
you know why?
name brand superhero movies, massive projects, humongous grand slam blockbuster bangers, and one guy turns, and you all lose money. How? That doesn't make any sense.
Because it's Barbie's world and we're all just living in it.
Apparently.
That's
the only logical explanation.
That is the explanation. Because Sam, in Hollywood, you can fail and fail and fail and fail again. And then you can have one thing that works and it can carry you for the rest of your career.
But this isn't going to carry them. This isn't going to
carry them for the summer. It carried them into profit.
It's the only one, though.
It literally offset the bomb that was The Flash.
Make 5 more, and they're all gonna bomb because they don't understand why this one made money.
You're sounding like Ben Shapiro right now, Sam.
Hang on. No, because Ben Shapiro hates this movie, even though it's the only one that made money. Because he's an idiot. But my point is, they don't understand why their movies make money.
No,
obviously.
The lesson they learned was toy movie, make money.
And if they keep... This summer, I think, is the perfect example of that. Because we saw legacy franchises release massive installments and poop their pants and die on the bed. And then Barbie came out swinging because it's an original movie, more or less. It was actually good.
New take.
A new take.
Interesting direction. Specific filmmaker's vision.
And they're going to make 15 more.
And the lesson they learned.
And they're going to do exactly what every other franchise this summer did. Because they didn't
They're going to make a $250 million Rock'em Sock'em Robots film. Directed by Joe Schmo, starring Vin Diesel. And
because
it's going to lose $100 million.
You know what? Let's look at Transformers. The first Transformers, I would argue, is the man equivalent to the Barbie movie, right? Let's say those are comparable IPs. The first Transformers movie made $1 billion.
No, it did.
The first one did.
It made money. Lots. It actually peaked at number 4.
But I'm not talking about over the
it ramped up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That one made big money. Big money. Yep. Big money. Uh-oh. Not so much money.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Way less
this
money.
Isn't looking good. Oh, crap.
Panic mode. Where's G.I. Joe?
And they're going to do the same thing with Barbie.
So what we're saying is when we get to Barbie 7,
stop.
And they go, guys, Polly Pocket's showing up in the next one.
No, actually.
That's when you know it's time to die.
Did Polly Pocket and Barbie take place in the same universe?
Does G.I. Joe and Transformers take place in the same
they had
universe?
like comic crossovers going on. Like, I don't think Polly Pocket
Sam,
and Barbie
what matters is that they're 2 IPs.
But do you see what I'm... Like, it's going to go the same way because they never, ever learn.
Other movies that came out this summer, Book Club 2 made way less than Book Club 1.
Oh, no.
No one knows why they even did that.
Book Club 2 didn't make as much money as Book Club 1.
Fast X, another giant... Fast X has a reported budget of $340 million. Combined with marketing and being a little bit more realistic, that's probably upwards of like $500 million in terms of total cost. $714 million return. That's less than Fast 9. Fast 9 came out early 2021. So like still when COVID was actively affecting. Still when COVID was actively affecting the movie business. So I would think that would tell them that Fast X Part 2 is time to wrap it up.
No. We gotta
maybe don't make Fast X Part 1, 2, and 3.
Part 5.
I guess they can't do that Hobbs spinoff now.
Not
because of the SAG and NWGA strike. So how's it going to come out? Oh, I guess Fast X Part 2 will now be delayed.
They'll just wait.
So it'll all work out.
Don't worry about it.
I mean, now it won't be like a 2-year gap. It'll probably be like a 3-year gap.
They'll just wait.
Sure, they'll work out.
Don't worry. They don't. If we have learned anything this summer, it's that they are actually smooth brain, and their smooth brains have been sealed in resin to ensure that they develop no wrinkles, so that their brains stay smooth because they don't ever learn.
2 comedies that didn't work early in the summer. About My Father, if you remember, that was the Robert De Niro
with the peacock.
Yeah, My Old Man is Being a Weirdo movie.
My grandpa ate the family bird.
$29 million budget, $18.2 million gross. That
sounds right.
probably should have been like a direct to Hulu thing. The Machine, the Burt Kreischer comedy.
Forgot that
I actually saw that one. $20 million budget, $10.7 million return.
That one's about right.
Yeah, that movie wasn't great.
Oh, well, it was based on a comedy special that was like already like kind of just an average comedy special.
Yeah. Transformers. Okay. $200 million budget, $439 million worldwide gross. Not
probably
terrible. Maybe made a little money. Definitely won't make money on streaming and with all that stuff. And okay, think about these Transformers, right?
Oh, it won't make any money on Paramount Plus.
Transformers
that's for dang sure.
Movie gross doesn't really matter because as long as those toys sales went up, they're gonna do another one.
The toy sales probably didn't go up that high though.
I
didn't really see any Transformers toys.
We're
like
also
any
not
stores.
8 years old.
No, but we.
How often are you hanging out in the toy section?
Every time we walk to the video game aisle, we walk past the toy aisle. And anytime you walk past the toy aisle, you see the big cardboard cutout of whatever the latest thing is that they're trying to sell. And at no point was it a Transformer.
I'd say it probably did pretty good if you put in the toy sales. I'm saying it. Transformers probably has always had consistently good toy sales.
Yeah, because that's what it is.
And the same with Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles, I can find that data on you real quick. Didn't do super well, but it was just reported this last a couple weeks ago that the Mutant Mayhem line of toys
probably
this whole year did like $1 billion in sales.
Yeah, because they did something smart that no other Ninja Turtles movie has ever done.
Which was put 1 million different toys in it.
But they made each toy a character that is actually a real character and not a cardboard cutout of a toy.
Yeah. So yeah, Ninja Turtles, $70 million budget, $161 million global gross. Obviously still in theaters. So not a great return, but again, those toy sales high.
We'll see Ninja Turtles. Good movie.
They already greenlit the TV show, and then I would say that second movie is definitely gonna happen if those toy sales keep up.
So. Honestly, the way that they left it off, I'm excited to see what.
Yeah. Talked about Indiana Jones, talked about Ruby Gillman. Insidious, The Red Door.
That doesn't count.
Nobody was talking about it. Guess what, Sam? It's the highest grossing horror movie of the year. It had a $16 million budget. $188 million global gross is the highest grossing one in the series.
Just about right.
I have met one person who's seen this. Somehow it's a giant hit.
See, this is some movies just aren't real. You know what I mean? Like some movies are just not real. Like how is that movie real? No one's seen it. It wasn't old people going to see it.
No.
Because that's usually what happens. It's like it's a movie for old people, so they don't really like talk about it on the internet. But it still makes a lot of money. That's not an old people movie. That's a teenager movie. Teenagers post all the time. They post every single thing. They always talk about whatever they do.
Yeah. Because I think everything they do is interesting.
Even though it's not. Which is how this show got. But my point is, how did no one talk? No one was talking about this movie.
No, not a single person. I honestly thought this one was gonna bomb, just because of like how generally
how did it not bomb?
There's no interest in the Insidious franchise, and it just turns out there's a fan base somewhere.
I don't think there's a fan base for Insidious.
No, I think there's a fan base for horror movies.
And Insidious happened to come out.
It's amazing to me how willing audiences are to just watch any horror movie that comes out, and then they are literally so extraordinarily picky about every other genre.
Yeah, I don't get it.
They will pay $15 to see Joe Schmo's horror movie he made for $13 and filmed in his backyard in a week. And then when it comes to like any other movie, they're like, does it have above an 85 on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, it's very strange how horror just gets a pass no matter what.
It's really cool.
Infinite money.
Honestly, it's a good thing. My problem is not that it's a thing that happens with horror, and my problem is that it doesn't happen with anything else.
No, you don't want it to happen with everything.
No, I'm not saying with everything, but like, there are a lot of smaller movies that came out this summer that I'm sure would have benefited from a bunch of people randomly deciding to see it.
But the reason why horror movies are so demonstrably profitable is because they
so
also, they have notoriously microscopic budgets compared to other big blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
If, for example, name a superhero guy. If Blue Beetle
cost $50 million,
which by all accounts it could have if they wanted
it probably cost closer to 100.
if they really wanted to nickel and dime it, get some like no
Take
name
away
actors,
the CGI city.
get the CGI city out of there, make it take place in a real place, make the suit still do cool stuff, but maybe get some wires instead of CGI. You know what I'm
Don't
saying?
have him fly around as much.
Yeah, they could have rung it out probably around 75 million.
Yeah,
And if they did that, it would have turned a profit easy.
yeah.
But every single movie cost $250 million, doubled for marketing, which is stupid.
Another movie that no one saw but was a giant hit, The Meg 2. $129 million budget.
We knew that was going to make $1 billion.
$386 million gross. It's probably going to end up north of 400. That was a big hit internationally, but
that's another movie.
That was the only case of like, it's been 5 years since the sequel. No one has said a word about it. No one cares. Yet somehow the sequel is a hit.
But that's because, okay, so here's the thing with sequels. The odds that they will make money depends entirely on the complexity of the previous entry. If the previous entry was a very complex story that required brain to invest to understand,
If you have to remember something that happened before,
then the odds that it will make as much money are lower because you have to be invested. This movie, the Meg 1, requires, and they put it on the poster, they said requires 4 brain cells to watch. So the investment's not high. So as long as you have 4 brain cells, you're good. This movie's the same. You don't need much more than that.
Blue Beetle, $104 million budget, $114 million gross. Not good. But I don't think, did anyone really expect anything out of Blue Beetle, to be honest? As much as I generally have warmed to that film. The one horror movie that bombed, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. $45 million budget, one of the more expensive horror films out there. $21.3 million gross worldwide. Not
All right, so compare
great.
that. Compare the returns though to Insidious. How much did it make compared to Insidious?
Oh, Insidious did 180.
So it made more than Insidious.
No, Insidious made way
More. I'm saying
cost more.
Ticket sales. Which one made more? Like
Insidious.
Grossed more money.
Insidious.
Insidious grossed more.
Like $160 million more.
What did Demeter make?
Like 25.
No. The number of the ticket sales. It only made $25 million. It only sold $25 million of tickets. That's not the profit.
No, that's
the losses or whatever.
That's how much it made.
That's it.
Total. That's revenue.
That's just a demonstrable failure on all accounts.
Strays, $46 million budget.
That movie didn't come out.
$32.6 million.
That movie hasn't come out yet.
Global gross.
That movie has not been in theaters yet.
That one was delayed because of the writer's strike. And then the SAG strike hit and the WGA strike was not resolved by the time its second release date came up. So they just let it die.
Yeah, that movie wasn't going to not die. That movie was going to die no matter what.
That movie would have been
movie would have been a slam.
That would have been a slam dunk.
2004, people would have
underground hit American Pie
awesome.
type thing in 2003.
But in 2023,
but 20 years after,
that's not a big thing anymore.
That would have been a funny twist on that idea if like we
Back
were
when
still
that idea
in
was a
Airbud
thing.
times.
Yeah, like
we're not in Airbud times anymore.
Is it Benji, which is the one that gets like lost every time and there's like a million of them?
Yeah, there's cats and dogs. There's
back
Beethoven,
when that was
all the dog
thing.
Movies. The Buddies movies, like the Spooky Buddies, all those.
All the Airbuds, all those.
Yeah, all the Airbuds.
Back then, this movie would have gone hard. But nowadays, it's going real soft.
Gran Turismo, $60 million budget, $94 million box office gross.
It's not bad.
Not bad. Probably won't make any money, but not a horrible failure.
That is a good budget. $65 million. That is a solid
for a video game racing movie. That's probably what that should have
right
cost.
Around where it should be.
Sony
and it probably didn't lose a ton of
that's
money.
Like a couple of smart moves by Sony here.
Maybe they hired back the guy who had the Netflix idea.
They didn't fire him until
fired him at the end of the summer.
They fired him, and that's when they changed the title to based on a true story.
Yeah, they fired it and changed.
Equalizer 3, final film on the summer, $70 million budget, $110 million box office return. That'll probably end up cranking out a decent amount of money when you factor in PVOD. It's obviously only been out for like 2 weeks. So, yeah.
What one?
Equalizer 3.
Oh, yeah, that didn't come out either.
That one had the highest opening of all the Equalizer films.
I'm sure it did. I'm 100% positive it did. Which shows how much I care about the other
Equalizer 3, that's definitely like a different demo than I'd say we hang out. That's definitely for like older dudes.
Is it though?
Yes.
Or is it just for people who didn't
It's
get
an
enough of
old
Taken?
man. It's an old man beats up dudes movie. That appears specifically.
Okay, but
to
we
old people.
watched some of those.
Okay, but we didn't watch this one because you specifically didn't want to.
Yeah, because I already saw John Wick this year, and I don't need to see worse John Wick. I saw John Wick already one time, and it was good. I don't need to see it a worse version of it again.
The Nun 2 is going to rake in so much money.
I really
That's
don't
the summer.
understand why.
I was thinking
for the Nun.
earlier this year we could do the fall. However, now that the SAG strike is
There's
pushing everything
nothing
back,
going on.
who knows what's actually going to come out in the fall anymore?
It'll just be Aquaman.
Probably just be Aquaman, and that doesn't come out for 3 more months. So we'll see what happens.
We're gonna, guys, bunker down because we're entering the content drought, which will save us a lot of money.
It's bad for the podcast because we have nothing to talk about it.
Oh, we always have stuff.
It's good for me because it means I have to pay to watch
We've
less
been
things.
blabbing about stuff for an hour 40, and
nothing
nothing
came out.
We haven't even gotten to Ahsoka yet,
Okay,
which
well,
is the only thing that did come out.
Let's touch on Ahsoka, episode 5. There's 1 episode this time, not 2.
Although I don't think we talked about.
We talked about it on the last episode. So Sam, what happened? I'm assuming if you're watching this, you've seen the
Spoilers, because
So who
there's
cares about
spoilers like
spoilers?
so fast into the episode.
It was all over
this
Twitter. You know.
episode was freaking crazy. Lots of nutty things happened.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the world between worlds. Little fight. He does the spinaroo. Everyone goes nuts on Twitter because everyone loves it when he does the spin move.
You know, Anakin's signature spin move.
He literally does have a signature spin move. You're
It's
saying it like it is an actual joke, but he does have
he's
that.
a person on like Dancing with the Stars.
He does have he
Anakin
goes
did
the
his
spin
signature
move.
dance move, and the crowd went wild.
Yeah, so he fights Ahsoka. I really thought that the sort of Ahsoka retrospective they did in the World Between Worlds was really cool. And I think that has finally justified this being called the Ahsoka show. Because without that scene, there's no real reason to call it
Somewhat.
Ahsoka. I also like how they complete Ahsoka's character arc as a Jedi, at least through this scene. I think that the way they did that was really cool. Because in a similar way to how Luke had to confront his father in order to become a Jedi, she had to confront her former master to become a Jedi, which I thought was cool. I like how they did that. Parallels there. There are also some really cool scenes where sort of see Anakin flashing back and forth between Darth Vader that I thought were done super
Those were
well.
pretty neat visuals.
So cool.
Some one person say it's the best shot in all of Star Wars.
That's not correct, but
It's
it is
not.
a really cool shot. There was rumors on Twitter that there were scenes shot of Anakin and Ahsoka fighting on Mustafar. I know exactly where those scenes would have gone if they were kept in the episode
Probably
now.
didn't finish rendering.
Yeah, because, well, okay, Mustafar's a very expensive place to do
And if there's
scenes.
one things these shows are, it's super cheap looking.
Yeah, Ahsoka especially, I feel, has suffered a little bit in the budget department.
They just okay. Yeah, I'll
But-
talk about it.
I mean, it's Star Wars. I feel like if Star Wars looks too good, it kind of loses Star Wars.
Okay, but like those original movies look so good. Like even today, they look so good.
they look good compared to other things from the
like,
time.
But no, like even now, like those environments are so lived in. Those sets are like so like scuffed up and like worn, and like all the characters' costumes and like quirks, it all like works.
I
so
feel like
well.
that's more of a location.
all the
thing.
costumes. I mean, like the Jabba puppet is amazing. Like,
Again,
it's
I feel
amazing.
like those are more sort of location things than.
But I'm just
Ahsoka does
comparing.
not have a lot of.
I'm
like,
comparing
complex
it to like the
locations.
production design and costumes and makeup effects on.
I feel like Ahsoka has very good. I feel like it's
Disney
really.
Plus shows.
I think it's just the head tails that are throwing people.
Don't
off.
throw me off. Pretty.
I
well.
feel like everything else though is looks
Okay.
very good.
So I'd say you're pretty warm on this episode.
I thought it was really really.
I'm
good.
pretty mid on it. I think my thing with most of these Star Wars. Okay, I will say this about it.
I liked it a lot because
So-
of the way they wrap up Ahsoka's character.
Dave Filoni, he writes all these episodes. He directed this one. Compared to his first episode he did, which was the first episode of the show, this was a really big step up from him in terms of directing. That was good to see, especially since he's going to do a movie.
Yeah,
He definitely needed to step up. This was a good improvement.
and seeing Hayden Christensen as
He
Clone Wars
tried to
Anakin
do
was
some
really cool.
clever stuff with the camera. Action scenes were a little bit better shot. I don't know if that's proper wording. It was pretty well paced for the most part. My biggest problem, my problems with it, my problems with all these Disney Plus shows is the same. I feel like I'm like a broken grandfather clock. I'm just repeating the same noise over and over again. Like it's the pacing, it's the fact that some episodes have so much content crammed into them, and the ones before and after it will have nothing to do.
Yeah, it's very much like an accordion with the show.
This is beyond the Disney Plus shows. This is most of Star Wars. None of these characters sound anything like a real person, and it has bothered me for years.
I feel like Ahsoka, they do sound pretty much.
Some
like,
of them a little bit. It's a little bit better than like the Mandalorian, but it's the dialogue that's just like so. I think I know why.
This show, I know exactly why. Every once in a while, and I think this is what you're talking about. Every once in a while, a character will say something that they are only saying specifically to explain to non-Rebels audiences.
There was a specific moment in this episode where that specifically pointed out.
And that happens a lot in the show.
It was when the robot was talking to X-Wing fighter pilot man, and it was like, oh, that's Jason Syndulla.
His dad was a Jedi. He has
force powers because his dad, Kanan Jarrus, was a Jedi.
Yeah. But I feel like when it's just the characters interacting and they're just picking up from where we left off in Rebels, we don't see any catch-up scene. I feel like the dialogue in this series is very strong.
I think the reason it can feel so off is that Dave Filoni, before he started working on Star Wars stuff, was not a writer.
Yeah, he was.
No. He was a director. He was an animation director. He's always been very good at directing animation, and he's getting better at directing live action. That has never been his weakness. And he was pretty good at writing.
I'm pretty sure he wrote a lot.
He was pretty good at writing Clone Wars and Rebels too. But I think the reason that worked is because he was confined so much to that 22-minute format that he was never he could never take that much time with the dialogue and allow it to be that clunky because it had to have such a pace to it. When he's fully graduated from the Lucas School of Dialogue, and George Lucas is notorious for his terrible dialogue.
Okay, Dave Filoni's dialogue is way better than George Lucas.
It's better, but it's
way
cut from the same cloth.
No. Hang on. Hold up. You're telling me that you think the guy who was like, I like sand, and the guy who's like, so beautiful, but I don't know why. You're telling me that dialogue
again
is almost on the same level as the dialogue in this show.
Who did Dave Filoni learn to write dialogue from? George Lucas.
He was writing stuff before he did Star.
I looked at his IMDb, buddy.
He did some episodes of Avatar.
He directed episodes of Avatar. He never wrote any episodes.
I'm pretty sure he wrote a couple. There's no way they did.
I knew you were going to say this.
There's
I
no
looked
way
it up earlier today.
There's no way he didn't do a single one.
So, writing credits. His first writing credit was on Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
About SpongeBob.
He never wrote on SpongeBob. He's directed animation for a long time, and he's very good at directing animation. That is not in question. But I think it's the writing he has a problem with, especially when it's this 50-minute long format. Because even the way that this episode is like chunked out in terms of like what's happening in what order, it's very like this should be 2 episodes of content. Yeah. And it's all crammed into one, and then you'll have an episode 2 episodes ago that should have not been an episode at all because nothing happened.
I agree that the pacing, I feel like
it's just the way
towards the middle got very
events.
Weird.
It's just like,
but that's not a writing thing.
It was the same problem I had with the Book of Boba Fett, not to the same extent that was, where like I'm watching it and I'm just like, I'm thinking like, I could if I had the time and the money, I could improve this. That's not a feeling I want to have.
That's not a writing issue. That's like an editing issue.
I know. Broadly, the whole episode, that's what I was feeling. Like if I was doing this right,
I'm talking about the dialogue. Like I don't think that the dialogue is as bad as you're making it out to be.
It's okay with the Anakin and Ahsoka stuff. It's super clunky and does not move the story forward and is way too monotone in the Hera and Huyang and fighter pilot and Jason
but that's
stuff.
That's because those characters have not a lot to do. And
no one in this show has anything to do.
Hang on. Especially in this episode where it was all about Ahsoka, the other characters are just wandering around looking for her.
I think that the other...
I do agree with you. I think they spent too much time on, Hera, should we keep looking? Yes, keep looking.
Well,
That happened like 2 times too many.
My other problem is, these characters are so like devoid of personality. They're so boring.
Okay, but that's a directing thing. That's not a writing thing.
I get, well, but that's Dave Filoni, the same. Like,
I
that's
know,
the same
yeah.
problem. But they're also not written with, like, there's no, like, there's a line, right? There's that line I was just talking about, where he says that he's Kanan Jarrus' son. He has special force powers. I was waiting for the fighter pilot to say, like, something quippy, like, everyone has force powers these days, and then turn around and walk away. Like, that's a line. That's a little bit of wit, a little bit of character.
Goes, all right.
He literally just goes, okay, and then he turns around and walks into his X-wing.
He did say it with like a kind of like a sure whatever, like there was like a scene.
Hu Yang has a little bit of wit. I'm just looking for something, like any sort of range of emotion.
I think
something that brings like any not even really levity, just like
I think
something
right
that
now,
isn't just explaining things to me.
I think right now Star Wars is afraid of doing quips.
They have always been afraid of trying new things.
I think, well, it's not trying new things. I think they're afraid of doing quips because people have been clowning on Marvel and other Star Wars projects so hard for their dumb quips that I think in this show they were like, all right, no quips, tone down the quips. So now whenever characters in a situation where they would normally say something clever, they kind of just go, oh, this sure is a bad situation we're in.
It's just like there's no snappiness to the dialogue. There's no good like character banter. Like there's none of that in this.
Yeah, not really.
There's a little when Sabina's there, but especially in this episode when she's not there, like it's really lacking that.
The only character that has chemistry with other characters is Ahsoka. So when Ahsoka isn't in a scene, the characters feel like they don't have any energy.
I think Ahsoka was better in this episode, especially after she exits the Yoda Force Cave, where she learns her lesson, right? She comes out and she's Gandalf now. She's got the white robe. There was a little bit of that old Ahsoka personality. She was a little bit less stoic, but she's still so stoic.
No, I'm not talking about her stoicism. I'm talking about when her and Sabine are interacting with each other, they have chemistry.
Yeah, a little bit.
When Ahsoka and Hera are talking to each other, they're
practically the same character.
Yeah, but they have chemistry. When Ahsoka and Anakin were on screen together, they have chemistry. But when it's Hera and Hu Yang, there's nothing there. When it's Sabine and Hu Yang, there's nothing there. When it's Sabine and the bad guys, there's nothing there.
Jason and Hera, or
I will say, Baylan Skoll and Morgan have chemistry. They're very.
But they also don't ever talk to each other.
They don't have a lot of scenes, so
he's not even in this episode.
Yeah, I feel like the chemistry between the characters when Ahsoka isn't present is noticeably lacking.
I also just think like Ahsoka, she's so dry. I don't know why they write her to be so dry.
I think at this point in her
story, I know
she's
like older and experienced and like a little bit like degraded or something.
Well, it's not that she's older and experienced; it's that she feels
she's been
like
through a lot.
Is a failure,
she's in
and
a dark
everything
point.
She's ever known has gone wrong.
She's not interesting to watch when she's on screen by herself.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She has to be with other people.
She's so boring.
unless she's fighting. When she's fighting, it's cool. Fight scenes in this
show
have been pretty
like
good.
that.
The fight scenes in this show have been
the fight scene in these episodes were better.
Star Wars episodes,
they were better than especially his first one. I think he took a very nice and necessary step forward.
And I like how they still.
I thought all the flashback stuff with young Ahsoka, who they did cast a younger actress,
and that was very smart.
It was Ariana Greenblatt from Infinity War and Barbie. She's having a big year. But that stuff with Anakin and like kind of examining that dynamic, that all worked for me. I liked the part where the clone was dying on that stretcher, but they couldn't show his face.
So they wrapped it up, and then there was another guy next to him, and his face was also wrapped up.
I liked the part where Captain Rex yelled the thing, but it's so weird hearing like Tamara Morrison's voice come out of.
So used to
that
Captain Rex
D.
be the
Bradley
Clone Wars
Baker voice. Yeah.
Why didn't they get him?
Why didn't they just get him?
Don't see his head. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm sure that he was like he just finished wrapping an episode.
And I know a lot of people got glup crapoed by just seeing the live action actors wear the Clone Wars outfits.
But they were.
I was trying not to. I was just like, I felt like again, and I know you probably thought it worked better than I thought it worked, but I thought that all that stuff with Ahsoka and Anakin, one, that should have been the whole episode. We should have never left the world between worlds.
I agree.
We shouldn't have been cutting back and forth.
That's what I was saying. All this stuff where Hera's just looking around, that stuff wasn't interesting.
Cut all that. It should have been. I think we should have just.
They needed to add the Mustafa
This should have been.
back in.
This is the 5th episode in an 8-episode show. This should have been all Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I think we should have started in the world between worlds and traced her all the way from and re-examine all of the major moments in her life. And you can even use it to fill in the gaps of where she was at certain points. So go back and trace all the stuff we've seen in animation, her birth, her being found by Plo Koon, her meeting Anakin, the Clone Wars, her leaving the Jedi, just
really trace
and re-examine it all out and re-examine that Anakin Ahsoka relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally at the very end of the episode, have her emerge and have the show continue.
Yeah.
Because we don't need to know how they found her in the water. We can just
assume
that they looked down and found her. We don't need to
They're
know any of that.
flying around looking for her for 20 minutes. And then Chopper goes, have you tried looking in the water? And they're like, yeah.
But just all that. We should have just never left the world between worlds. And we should have really sat with her and watched her go through a range of emotions.
Okay, actually.
Watch Rosario Dawson go through a range of emotions. Because we see Ahsoka go through a range of emotions, but the problem is all of her emotional bits are all when she's young. So we still have never really gotten to see Rosario Dawson really get to act. She's still playing that same older Ahsoka. We need to watch her evolve.
I will say one scene though that I did like that was not in the world.
How did we get through that whole scene and we didn't get to that? Ahsoka and Vader fought when they were both adults. She fought Vader in Rebels.
I feel like that should have been
should have been addressed. Why are we even bothering to go back to the Clone Wars era, right? Other than just to show Clone Wars things. If we're not we're not gonna truly examine that relationship from start to finish.
I think we did examine it, but one, it was very fast. I don't know why they rushed it so much. Two, and the way that they examine it is we're seeing Ahsoka where she is now, looking back on her relationship with Anakin, and through that lens, she's starting to see more of him becoming Vader. We see that, when she looks back on that first battle, and she's talking to Anakin. Anakin's like, I'm not training you to be a Jedi. I'm training you to be a soldier.
Yeah.
And that's really where that's where Ahsoka's struggle comes from. That
through line works so much better if those earlier episodes were better. If we saw a little bit more of Ahsoka and Sabine training, and we see early on that Ahsoka is doing what Anakin taught her to do, which is to be a soldier.
Which is not how you train
she's
Jedi.
Failing.
Yeah.
And then this is her reckoning, where she learns her lesson, and then after this, we see a change.
And that would have also been...
That would have worked. It's not this episode's fault. It's the other episode's fault for not properly establishing that Sabine-Ahsoka training relationship.
That also would have been interesting because Sabine is a Mandalorian, and they are also soldiers.
Which you can then compare and contrast to the Ahsoka-Anakin one.
Yeah.
Because what you should have done is shown that early on, and then when Ahsoka is reflecting on her relationship with Anakin, she sees all those warrior and that aggressiveness that led him down that path, and seeing what he failed as a master.
And we see Ahsoka for a moment too, that sort of take over
and then
her.
we see the good moments, the parts that did work when he was a good person and a teacher to her.
And that's the parts
the parts she learns to mirror.
And
so she becomes the best of both worlds.
Those parts of her journey with Anakin are also the closest she got to being a Jedi.
Yeah.
Is in those moments where they weren't just fighting, where they were trying to be more than soldiers. And because of the situation they were in, neither one of them really got the chance to become the Jedi that they should have become. And the reason why I like this episode so much is, at least in my brain, it parodies Luke's Jedi journey very similarly. If not, maybe I would argue the character arc for Ahsoka is a little bit better, because Luke kind of is just oh, this guy is my dad, and I guess I have to fight him. Okay. He didn't have an emotional connection to Anakin the same way Ahsoka did. But in the same way that Luke had to confront his father, Vader, in order to become a Jedi, we established very early on in the World Between Worlds, Anakin's I never finished your training. And she's like, oh, I already, learned plenty, whatever. He's like, I haven't taught you everything. So to me, that reestablishes the idea that she could still be a Jedi, could still finish her training. And I think that the point of this sort of whole part of the story of Ahsoka is to prove that she is now a a Jedi
Yeah,
because she's unlearning. She's examining retrospectively what was wrong with her training, and through this moment, confronting her former master, becoming the Jedi she was meant to become.
My problem is not that it didn't work. My problem is just like it could have been done better.
It could have been done better. I do feel like it was a little rushed.
Like it just needs like they just needed to think it out just a little bit more. Like I think the problem with these shows is that they look at them as like eight chunks, and they're like, how do we fill this chunk? How do we fill this chunk? How do we fill this chunk? They're not looking at like a grand picture. Where are the beats? How does this first part fit into this later part? How does this later part reflect back on this first part? They're just looking at it as like, okay, we start here, and then the next one's going to be this, and then that, and then that, and then that, and then we're going to end up here for whatever the next show is.
Yeah, they have the same. They have in a very similar way. They have the same problem that Marvel does.
They're not looking
where they're
at
focusing on. I would argue it's kind of the other way around, where they're looking at too big of a picture.
Yeah,
they need to be looking at a smaller picture. You need to focus on making this the best thing it can be, and not making this the precursor to the next
There were a
thing.
lot of things I liked. There were wide shots in this episode. I was amazed.
Yeah.
The camera pulled back. I could see an environment.
And see, the thing is,
I could see people standing.
I think they were, I think for most of the World Between Worlds stuff, they were in the volume.
They 100%
But
were
because of the creative way that they showcase the environment,
that's how you should use it.
It makes everything bigger.
Yeah.
Because now the actors have a place to act in. They have the volume, so they're not acting in a green cube. But you also get the advantage that you can then take your computers and artificially expand the environment.
I did laugh a little bit when Hayden Christensen came out in that big bulky plastic Clone Wars armor.
Okay, that
was very funny to me.
I looked back at Anakin's design in
he looked
Clone
buff.
Wars. That armor did not fit him right. That was just a costuming error. No. I don't know why they made it so
Again,
bulky.
that's why it looks so cheap. It's stuff like that. But like, he looked
like
buff. I was like, hey,
thinking about it, it's like, yeah, okay, I guess if it's armor, it
makes
should
sense
be
that he
big.
would have been wearing armor.
But then in Clone Wars, it probably should have been big. Why was it small in the show? That's weird, but whatever. I'll give him a pass. That's a costume.
It was also a little distracting to see the CG clone troopers.
I thought that was all right.
There's literally a shot.
There's enough mist that you don't
There's
really
literally a shot in this episode that I am 100% certain. It's a real quick shot. It's from the Siege of Mandalore bit where they cut to like a Mandalorian trooper, and I'm like, that is literally like someone from Clone Wars just animated a Clone Wars shot. I literally thought for a second they just slid a shot from Clone Wars in there.
Well, okay, it
looked a little cartoony for a second.
Mandalorians, I would argue, transfer a little bit too well from animation to live action in the sense that their design is so simple that when you translate it, it almost looks the same, especially in that environment where everything's covered in a little bit of mist, so it makes everything kind of hazy. It did look a little strange.
Yeah, I thought it was
I
thought it was so weird that they got Tamara Morrison to come in and obviously do that voice line for Rex, and not like while he was there paste his face over like a clone trooper.
Yeah, that was a little weird. I don't know why they bothered.
They did that in the prequels. All those clone troopers.
Yeah, they're not actually him
with Tamara Morrison's face.
Yeah,
CGI'd on them. I don't know why they didn't do that here.
I mean, I think they know from the prequels that it looks bad when they did that, so they didn't do that.
I'm hoping moving forward we see like an actual change in Ahsoka's personality.
I do think that there was one missed opportunity in that whole thing, because when Ahsoka's at the Siege of Mandalore, and Anakin's like, I don't remember this battle. When did this happen? And Ahsoka's like, this was the siege. She's explaining what's going on. Then they start to fight again, and we see them almost transition to Mustafar, but then they don't, because again, that's where those scenes probably should have gone. I think we should have seen that, because that would also help to flesh out Anakin's part of this arc. Because we see Ahsoka's journey, and we see where she ended up, and how her training led to her becoming a soldier.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't see the Mustafar bit where Anakin fell to the dark side. And that's in the same way that Ahsoka's journey ended without Anakin.
Yeah.
Anakin's journey ended without Ahsoka. And we didn't get to examine that part. And that also would have been an interesting sort of reflection of, Anakin was fighting his former master there. It would have been interesting to see Ahsoka and Anakin now with that same dynamic reversed, fighting in that same space. I think that could have been cool. I understand why they didn't do that. It probably would have been very expensive. Probably weren't done with it. Whatever issue or whatever reason they cut it out. I can see why you would do that.
I wonder if that last bit, that final duel where he's got the red lightsaber, I wonder if that was like the footage from that part.
Yeah, because he has a red lightsaber for the rest of that part on The World Between Worlds.
So
So is Anakin just like do the Force ghosts all just hang out in the world between worlds?
I
Is that what happened? Is it because it's Anakin, right? Like that is Anakin.
that is Anakin, as far as I
Yeah.
understand.
So like, also, is that where they go when they die? Is that where everyone goes when they die, or just the Jedi go when they die?
So remember, okay, and this has kind of been retconned by Episode 9, but I don't really consider that official material because of how much of the lore of Star Wars it breaks. But the Force ghosts are only those like 5 Jedi. It's
Yeah, they're supposed to learn how to do it.
It's Anakin, Luke, Obi-Wan,
Qui-Gon.
and Qui-Gon. And Qui-Gon isn't supposed to be able to fully manifest. Again, that was changed in Obi-Wan. But
No, he figured it out.
no, because remember in Clone Wars, he's talking to Yoda, and he explains, I never finished my training, so I wasn't able to do it right, which is why I can only
Anyone can
manifest my
Force
voice.
ghost now.
They changed it in Episode 9. I'm not counting that, though, because that doesn't make any sense.
I could do a Force ghost.
So
if
I think
want.
if you are because the Force ghosts are the manifestation of their consciousness within the living Force, which you're not supposed to be able to do,
then you can set
but
all
they
along.
were able to do because of their training. So because of that, I think they can, in the same way that they manifest metaphysically in the material world, I think in the world between worlds they can manifest a physical form. I mean, we can see that happen. Obviously something they can do.
Anyway, I thought this episode was pretty good. I just thought there was things they could have done better in it.
It definitely could have been improved, but I think what we got is pretty good. I'm happy with
I
what we
admire
got.
them for not fully like blowing their load on the Clone Wars nostalgia bait.
Yeah, I liked how tame they were.
I
with
was
it.
waiting for Ewan McGregor to roll out in the Clone Wars outfit. I was waiting for like Bo-Katan to
See,
show
but
up.
when you say like you wanted them to like sort of go through the whole Ahsoka history,
Yeah.
I mean that they would have had to do that if they did.
Yeah,
So do you want that or not?
well, I mean, Obi-Wan isn't super involved in her.
They literally like all their adventures are those.
Like he
three
could have been in
guys.
like that scene where they meet, but she didn't. He didn't really need.
They didn't do the scene where they meet.
They would have
really.
needed to do Plo Koon. They would have needed to have him in there if they did the whole. He did. He's the one that found him.
Yeah, but you can just get any old guy and stick a rubber thing.
Yeah. That's one of Dave
Plo Koon.
Filoni's favorites. Is Plo Koon.
Okay, Dave Filoni says that, but Plo Koon is in like one arc of Clone Wars,
Well-
and none of the live action stuff that he's
Well,
made.
okay. To be fair, George Lucas is the one that was like coming up with all those arcs. That was like all him, except for like the later ones after like Disney had bought it.
Yeah, but
He was the one coming up with every arc. So if George
the
Lucas didn't
only
want to do a
arc that
Koon
Plo
arc-
Koon is in is one of the George Lucas ones. None of the
He's in
Dave
a couple-
Filoni
he's
ones
in a
have
little-
Plo Koon
he's
in
a
them.
little bit, but like
Name
okay,
2 arcs.
I think that's because Dave Filoni was smart enough not to just like throw in a character who would have absolutely no purpose being there into the story for no reason.
no, but you okay.
A lesson he apparently forgot later on.
We could have seen him do something though. The only 2 things we see Plo Koon do in all of Star Wars,
He's in
3
the
things.
bomb
He
arc.
sits on a chair. He's in the bomb arc, which is
Mhm.
not a real arc because all they do is he doesn't even do anything.
No, the Ahsoka's framed one. He's in that one.
Yeah, but he doesn't do anything. He's just part of the Jedi Council. I'm not counting him sitting in a Jedi Council seat as a thing.
think he-
That's not a real thing. The only arc where he actually does anything is the one where he saves the clones and he risks his life for the clones, and it's a very nice, touching moment that fleshes out their relationship. But other than that arc, Plo Koon doesn't do anything else.
I think it's because Dave Filoni knew not to just throw Plo Koon in every arc.
He could have thrown him into one arc.
He's in it enough. He's a random
He's
Jedi.
in one arc.
Okay, you know why he's not in anything? It's because Plo Koon is not a character.
Okay, neither is
He's
Kit.
a costume.
Neither is Kit Fisto.
Kit
and
Fisto doesn't do anything either.
he's in like 3 arcs.
He's in the water arcs because he's the one that swims.
Yes. So why not why not do an arc where Plo Koon
And he's only the
goes?
one that swims because when they were designing that costume in 1999,
They put a squid on a guy's
they put
head.
a squid on a guy's head and he became the water guy.
Okay, but do you see what I'm saying? Like, why did Kit Fisto get so much screen time? And Kit Fisto did become a
because he's
character.
the water guy.
Kit Fisto did become a character because they focused on him more.
Remember when he dies in Revenge of the Sith?
He blocks.
He
one
walks into that
lightsaber and he
room
gets
and the
stabbed.
old man flies in front of him and then he immediately gets stabbed and falls
No,
over and
he's
dies.
one of the 3 that doesn't instantly die.
No, he instantly dies. He just
No.
gets stabbed.
He blocks 2 strikes and then he gets stabbed. I had this whole back in like 3rd grade. I had this whole debate with one of my friends where we're like, "Oh, this guy's the best Jedi." I was talking about Kit Fisto was like
Kit
not
Fisto
as lame as everyone
underwater?
else.
He would be sick. He can do like 360 backflips.
Anyone can do a 360 backflip.
He would.
underwater.
No, I think Kit Fisto, like, you take him out of that water, like he's useless. You put him in the water,
He's still
he's
pretty
like
good.
Batman.
Because he also beat Grievous on that in that other arc
That's
that he was
true,
in.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even underwater there. See, that's what I'm saying. That could have been Plo
He was
Koon.
losing his. I guess he just lost his mojo. Eating too many McDonald's.
I think he blocks 2
hamburgers.
strikes. The camera pans away from him. We don't see him, and then he gets stabbed in the next shot.
I think that was the guy they had on set that day, and they were
He
like,
was a
"You're in
little
this
stiff.
scene."
Maybe working with a squid on your head is a little difficult.
Anyway, yeah, I hope the show gets better.
There's only 1 episode left.
No, there's 3.
3?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it 8 episodes? Oh, I
It's
thought it
8.
was 6.
Yeah, Thrawn hasn't even shown up yet.
Well, that's why I was like, when this episode ended, I was like, man, they got like a lot of
guess
stuff to
I-
do here.
Ezra must just not be in this. They have to be saving him for something else, I guess.
He'll be in it for sure.
There's
The actors
there's
in the
3
show.
left, and like I don't.
And they could. Ezra's
Is he just gonna show up? and
Ezra
save
doesn't
the
have
day?
Ezra's character arc's over, so they just need to
Yeah.
they just need to bring him out. They just need to pick him out of the
Do
closet.
you
and
think
plop
that
him
he
down.
might be dead?
No,
You don't.
there's
think so?
no chance.
Why?
Because why would they spend all this time building him up and be like, Frank,
Well,
he's dead?
because it would be
That'd
an
be stupid.
emotional moment for like Sabine, Hera.
Kinda, but
Be like, oh, he was dead. And
Hera's
Thrawn
not
killed
even
him, and I
there.
want
Did
vengeance.
Hera go with Ahsoka? I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, so then it wouldn't even be an emotional moment for Hera. She'd just be like,
Well,
over the phone, oh, he's dead? Okay. Like, that's stupid.
Well, that's how Kanan happened in Kanan.
No, Kanan had a super emotional death where he sacrificed himself for everyone. He didn't, it wasn't
Oh
like
no, I'm thinking of
Chopper called him afterwards. It was like,
no,
"Hey, he's
I'm
dead."
thinking of the part where he gets blinded and he comes back and everything. But
Yeah, but that's, again, because they're reacting to the
I was
sacrifice
thinking
he
of a
made.
different thing. Yeah, I don't know. I think I
Ooh,
don't
what
know
if
what he
Ezra's
would do.
blind, though?
That would be too many times they've done that.
But okay, twice is too
Twice
many.
is too. This is like his direct apprentice.
Name one thing in Star Wars that happens one time.
Okay, that's not because of like it's necessary. It's because they're creatively bankrupt.
That's my point, though. Like, name one thing that's happened once.
No, I feel like he would be like, we've had him in this cage the whole time.
My
He was making friends with these animals or something.
My theory
has a
right
wife
now
now.
is that he's been thwarting Thrawn's attempts to return. I think
He's
Thrawn
like-
has been working to return
Batman.
independently, and Ezra's been trying to stop him. I think that's what they've been doing.
And they're gonna show up and beat him up, and he's gonna leave. I think Thrawn's returning to the main universe.
Yeah, obviously, because
Like that's gonna happen. So
how are they gonna do a whole another show where they deal with that
that's
whole
what the
thing?
movie is.
Oh right, I forgot they're making.
Well, they're doing this, and then there's Skeleton Crew, and then there's Mando season
Okay,
4.
but Skeleton Crew's not connected to this.
I think Mando's also been picked up for season 5. So
There's not that much stuff left to do with Mando.
there's nothing left to do with Mando because they ruined the ability for him to do anything else by putting
they-
Grogu back in the
They
show.
cut the legs off of the show.
Yeah, so I guess there's more to do with Bo-Katan.
I mean, Mando can still do stuff, but it would have to be like
if that show just goes
Monster
back,
of the Week type
if
show.
that show just goes back to like
Honestly, I'm fine with that.
one-offs,
I'm cool
I
with
would
that.
actually prefer that.
Yeah, that's fine.
If this is like the last plot thing, and then the movie just comes and picks up where this one left off, and we just get like
If we see
while
Mando,
we're waiting on the movie, we just get like one-off Mando party time episodes.
because
I'd be cool
what
with
made Mando cool is we got to see parts of the Star Wars universe that we don't
that. It
focus
was the
on.
one-offs.
Because
and then
it's
they
not a
got
big enough deal for Luke Skywalker.
And then they got obsessed with the main story arc, and it ruined the whole show's pacing.
Yeah, season
Because then they tried to do the one-offs, but they were still that whole
it
main
felt
plot
weird
line
then
was
because
looming
he
over
was
them.
doing more important things, so
Yeah.
it felt like weird that he. But now that they've sort of
They've
now
returned
that
to the
they've
status
wrapped up that
quo.
arc, yeah, I think we can go back. now.
Yeah. Anyway, if all of the Star Wars stuff got canceled tomorrow, I would not care.
Remember when Moff Gideon makes a clones army and then they
don't even leave their
they just blow
tanks?
them up and they die?
Yes.
That was weird. Why did they even do that?
I don't know.
That was a taco situation.
Maybe Thrawn's gonna do the same thing.
I hope not, because that doesn't
Try to
make
give
sense.
himself Force clone powers.
I think the Chiss are already like partially force sensitive.
They have.
anyway.
They're weirdos. They're weird.
They have a whole set of like super complicated
Anyway,
lore.
what kind of super Death? What kind of Death Star do you think he'll have?
And they already have the eye of Sion, which okay.
The Eye of
talk about that.
Sauron?
Talk about that name for a minute.
The what?
The thing, the hyperspace
The
ring.
big ring? That's not a weapon, though. It's a big ring.
Okay, so that's the strongest hyperdrive ever.
I guess they're gonna, unless they're gonna kamikaze some planets.
Yeah, if one like New Republic cruiser can blow up a dreadnought, then that thing could probably blow up a planet.
Problem though is that they did the hyperspace kamikaze in The Last Jedi, and they are not gonna touch the sequels at all. So
Well, they kind of did it a little bit in this.
how?
Remember when the ring goes and goes pew, and then those two X-wings
kinda
that are
like
in the middle
bumps
go,
them.
oh no!
I feel like okay. Well, Thrawn's definitely gonna have a super weapon because Star Wars isn't capable of doing a storyline that doesn't have an empire and
Okay,
a big super weapon.
My question though is if he does have a super weapon, like
I don't think he'll have it when he
how-
comes back. Like when in the movie, he'll have a
he'd
big super
already
weapon.
had one that he just forgot about, and now he's coming back to get it.
Well, he's gonna come back, and at the end of the show is gonna be like him holding up like a magic glowing crystal or whatever, the super duper gem. Gonna be like, and now I can instigate my revival plan, and he's going to like hold up his crystal, and then in the movie he'll have like a big gun it like sticks into, and it shoots a big laser.
I think
Because that's what Star Wars is. It's a big laser.
I have enough faith in Dave Filoni to believe that they will do something else.
My cynicism about Star Wars' inherently repetitive nature outweighs my faith
because
in Dave Filoni.
I mean, the way that Rebels ended, it wasn't with a big super death laser weapon.
But Rebels was also super small scale, like the finale was, at least.
But I mean,
The show generally,
this
like,
is also relatively
This show,
speaking, a
but
small scale.
like when they get to like a theatrically released movie, they have to up the stakes, and it's going to be a war between the Imperial Remnant and the Rebellion and the New Republic. So there's got to be some stakes, and the only way they know how to build stakes is that there's a big planet-destroying gun.
What if it ends with the Battle of Jakku?
It'll have to. That's going to happen.
Because we haven't, I don't think, seen
Well,
that
no.
yet. We have seen it in Battlefront.
Hold up.
We don't really know why
It's
it
already
happened.
happened.
It happened 3 years after the
This
fall.
takes place like 8 years after.
Well, just do some
So I guess we already
retconning.
did that. So that whole part of the Star Wars lore that the Battle of Jakku was the last major Star Wars Empire battle. Being
Is
retconned.
that lore? When would this?
What was supposed to have happened is that after the Battle of Jakku, the Emperor's like real close buddies all fled to the unknown regions and met up and like did some First Order cooking for like 20 years and then came back.
I think
But
that was
I guess while they were over
okay. Here's
cooking,
how we get around that.
there was a different section of the Imperial Remnant that is like
here's
war
how
ready.
here's how we get around that. We say that was the last battle with the actual
Empire.
the Empire as we knew it in Episode 6. That was the last real battle with the Empire. Everything after that was with like splinter groups, which is true. Because I mean, there is no formal structure to the Empire
See,
anymore.
you could make that case, but the film is unfortunately going to be called Star Wars: Heir to the Empire.
Yes,
So-
but there's no. He's heir to like some little thing that Palpatine. That's what they'll probably do. They'll have it so Palpatine built a thing because Palpatine is building so many things.
he's conjuring all
Palpatine's always building things.
Palpatine's busy right now. He's sitting on that planet conjuring Star Destroyers
No,
with
see,
Sith magic.
Here's the thing. He built a thing and he stashed it away somewhere. And
Yep.
he was like, all right, when I die, Thrawn, you're getting this cool thing.
He said-
But here's the thing. Thrawn was already gone.
This has already happened in canon.
When did this happen in canon?
There was Operation Cinder.
That wasn't Thrawn, though.
This was part of the plot of Battlefront 2,
Thrawn was not involved in that.
where Palpatine's plan after he was like, okay,
To
when
burn
I'm dead,
one nameless
use my
planet.
big laser and blow up these planets for me.
Yeah, okay, but see, again, Thrawn wasn't there.
How
And
the
two, that plan didn't work and was really stupid. And again, Palpatine had 1,000,000 of those plans. He had so many things.
Yeah, that
he
was his
built.
backup plan, and then his backup plan was to clone himself a million times, spend 30 years using Sith magic to conjure a bunch of Star Destroyers with Death Star guns, and I guess conjure people
Okay,
to man them.
so we're
and
gonna-
then put them give one of them Google Maps, and
We're-
then I'll follow them through an asteroid
We're
field.
going to assume that was his backup plan.
Because his
And
backup
at some
plan.
point between Operation Cinder, which is stupid and didn't make any sense, and
And-
his other plan,
and-
which was also stupid and didn't make any sense either, I don't even count. Again, I don't count that because that is so dumb
Okay,
and fundamentally
but
repulsive
keep
to
in mind-
every other aspect of
keep
Star
in
Wars.
mind that the people making this and the general public, to the general public, other than the Mandalorian, that was the last Star Wars thing.
Okay,
was
but
that movie.
That actually wasn't, because it's not real. Didn't count.
That's the last one they saw, was that one.
Yeah, but again, that's not real and doesn't count. So I don't even need to think about it. It's not real and didn't count. Didn't count. Here's what does count. Whatever this plan is. Whatever his plan is right now, that's the one that counts.
Okay. I will bet you $20 that his new plan involves a big planet-destroying laser gun.
That's what he has one of those that he has for Thrawn to use. Thrawn's the only guy who knows how to use
just
it.
Like, yo, it's like a guy leaving his buddy like his like bachelor pad when he gets married.
No, because him and Thrawn and Sidious did have like a special like connection or whatever. Like they had a
Thrawn,
they had like a force connection or some weird thing.
Palpatine was like, yo, here's the keys to my garage. Take any of my differently colored space guns.
Yeah.
And just go ham.
Yes, I think that is what's going to happen here. And why not? Why not?
Yeah, I guess why not?
I mean, it makes sense. We know that they had a relationship before. We know that Palpatine had a lot of faith in Thrawn. And the only reason why he didn't pass the Empire's command over to him is because he went missing.
Okay, I don't care if the movie is terrible. If they can find a way to go the entire movie without Thrawn developing or using or having a big Death Star gun as part of his plan, I will give it a 10 out of 10.
Okay, so what else could they do to make Thrawn threatening?
That's the question. That's the question they have to spend the next many years thinking about.
No, but what do they do?
What is a way we could build stakes without a Death Star gun?
How do you
I don't know.
You do that?
They're the ones getting paid all the money to come up with it. They're gonna have to come up with another idea.
Because you have to view it within the scale of Star Wars. In Star Wars, honestly, one planet is not even that big of a deal. So the only way to have stakes that are even remotely impactful is to have something that can drastically destroy or impact the livelihood of an entire planet.
That's good. Do that. Just
Tucker, that is a Death Star. That is what I just described.
I'm saying, other than the threat being there's a big gun in space and it's gonna blow up the planet. Other than that, you could do a virus. You could do.
You think he's got like a blue shadow virus box?
I'd take that over. I have another Death Star in my pants.
Okay, but it would be kind of dumb if the blue guy has the blue virus.
I'm sure Thrawn's got a Death Star in his pants, if you know what I'm talking about. But anyway.
No one's talking about that. No one was ever talking about that. What if he has a wife now? Have Thrawn baby? They're like super evil.
I'm saying you could do a virus. You could do an AI program. You could do a new super cool super ship. Doesn't have to have a Death Star gun on it. Just like a new cool advanced piece of technology. You could have discovered some old Night Sister magic. You could have some sort of way to hack into the system of the Republic. Something. Anything.
They could.
You know what? If his MacGuffin is giving a big speech to rally a bunch of the remaining Empire supporters behind him, that would work for me too. Literally anything other than I have a big gun, and if you don't do it, I'm going to say I'm going to shoot you with it.
What if it's a big machine that rebuilds the Death Stars? And the threat is they have to stop him from rebuilding the Death Star. That's technically different than That's technically what you said. That's technically slightly different.
That's half a point. Then he gets half credit.
He has a 3D printer for Death Stars.
I'm saying if they could go the whole movie without blowing up a planet, that fine.
I don't think they'll blow up.
I'm changing the requirement. If they could go the whole movie without blowing up a planet, they could do anything else to the planet. As long as they literally aren't just directly shooting it with a laser and it explodes on camera, then they're getting an A+ from me.
I think
this applies to the other two Star Wars movies they're doing. If they could get it away with those also, A+.
I think it would be cool since, again, we know that whatever galaxy he's in has some connection to the Night Sisters. And we also know that the Night Sisters can make zombies. What if he's going to make,
zombie army?
What if he makes...
That's kind of cool.
Oh, wait a minute. What if he
zombie
makes...
Sith army?
Zombie clone troopers. And then Ahsoka's got to be like, oh my god, my friends are zombies.
That's too niche.
I assume they'd be mixed in with other corpses, but what if some of them are clones? That'd be pretty.
Zombie army's not a bad idea.
I feel like that would be a good because
I feel like the general audience would be like, "What am I looking at? And why is this happening?"
but for the real ones,
But in
they
terms
would
of
know what's
like
up.
not a thing we've seen
and
seen
stuff
it
that
before.
also can
we have seen
happen,
it in Star Wars, but like a large scale zombie army like that
we've
could
never
never-
seen. We assume it's possible.
We know the Night Sisters. They did a little bit of a zombie army in Clone Wars for a little
Yeah.
bit there. Anyway,
But then, since the Night Sisters kind of suck in terms
We'll
of
be
combat,
back.
like, okay, if your planet can get destroyed by Grievous and his droid army, I'm sorry, but you suck at combat. The freaking Gungans were able to repel Grievous. So the fact that the Night Sisters lost, the fact that the Night Sisters lost to Grievous is pretty sad.
they like all got wiped out.
Yeah, they got
No,
extincted.
well, I guess they.
There are 2 survivors that we know of.
Well, and then there was a pretty good. There was a couple in Fallen Order.
3
There was a
technically.
good.
There was no, because there was only the one in Fallen Order. Just
Well, there was
Mirren.
Marin, and then there were some other ones. Or
No,
were they
it was just
zombies?
Marin. It was Marin. The
Guess
other
it was
guy
just
wasn't a
Marin.
Night Sister.
Well, no, the guy wasn't.
It was just
Anyway.
Marin. There was Morgan and then Ventress. Technically, those are the only 3 that survived.
Okay, well that's no. Ventress is dead.
Yeah, I'm talking about survived the purge.
She died in Clone Wars.
Talking about the purge.
Oh,
of,
okay. She didn't die in Clone Wars. She died in that time period. She died in a book. Anyway,
She died in a book that is definitely
because it was
not
supposed to
canon.
be a Clone Wars arc, and then they never got to it. They made a new book instead. Same with the Darth Maul escapes from prison arc.
Yeah, but again, no, the books. None of the books are canon.
They are canon until they are replaced with other canon.
Yeah.
That'll do it for this show. I'm surprised we managed to go this long with literally nothing of note to talk about. We'll be back next week with there's a movie coming out this week, Sam.
What movie?
A Haunting in Venice.
Might.
We'll check it
Be
out.
a
We'll let
movie.
you know what we think. We'll watch another episode of Ahsoka. I'll feel pretty mid about it. Sam will like it,
Cool.
and then we'll talk about
Unless
how.
they really suck.
And then we'll talk about how the next Star Wars movie is never going to come out because it'll be canceled. Anyway,
Bye-bye.
bye bye.